massive, three-eyed bear growls fiercely, its claws digging into the earth as it approaches. The young man standing confidently before it grins, excited by the challenge, knowing this fight will grant him plenty of experience points. The bear charges with a thunderous impact, but the young man swiftly casts a circular barrier around it. A girl calls out, asking if he leveled up, to which he replies that he'll need to put in some effort this time, surprising the bear. The young man confirms he has leveled up, noting how much easier it was to progress by hunting smaller creatures like snakes and fish before. The girl teases him about being just a little fish not long ago, and he reflects on how tough it was back then. Suddenly, the scene shifts underwater, where the young man is confused by bubbles rising around him. He wonders where he is and why he can't remember anything, alarmed as he notices strange objects in front of him and questions what is happening. The fish-shaped protagonist panics, noticing its hands have transformed into fins. It questions if this is a dream and shouts in shock, realizing it has become a fish. Memories blur as it recalls going to bed human but now finds itself underwater, surrounded by strange sea creatures and glowing crystals. It wonders where it is and concludes it is definitely not on Earth. Struggling to process the situation, the fish decides to find a quiet place to think. It contemplates whether it has reincarnated into another world and acknowledges its new fish form, accepting that this place is not Earth. Resigned but determined, the fish resolves to adapt to this new world. It wishes it had become a hero or someone powerful instead, but decides to level up and become stronger, hoping to find a status panel to aid its growth, despite the loneliness of reincarnation. The fish panics, demanding to know who is speaking and ordering the voice to show itself, but it is told that it cannot. Shocked, the fish realizes the voice is communicating directly inside its mind. The voice explains that experience is gained by hunting targets and leveling up leads to evolution. The fish, nervous but curious, learns this voice is the voice of heaven. Only able to offer advice and explanations, it accepts the voice is like an NPC and feels a bit relieved having someone to talk to. The fish then asks if it can check its status somehow. The fish is shown its status window, revealing it is a juvenile bluefish with low stats and several special skills, including Heaven's voice. It admits feeling weak after seeing the stats. The fish then asks the voice about the next evolution stage, but when the voice replies bluefish, young, the fish clarifies that's not what it meant, laughing nervously. The fish reflects on already having the voice of heaven, admitting it may be weak now but can evolve by gaining experience and growing stronger. It wonders if reincarnators have any privileges, and when told they do, it excitedly asks if it will evolve into a tuna, skipjack, or marlin, only to be told no to all. It guesses various powerful aquatic creatures, a little but strong piranha, a living fossil coelacanth, the strongest freshwater alligator, and a shark. But each guess is denied. Then it considers becoming a vodenjack, but the voice explains that's physiologically impossible and prefers not to discuss it. Frustrated, the fish demands the voice stop judging it and asks if it's really so hard to reveal its evolution line, reluctantly accepting the silence. Suddenly, the voice reveals the next evolution stage, final stage dragon. The fish's eyes widen in shock and disbelief, demanding the voice repeat itself, overwhelmed by the unexpected revelation. A majestic, swirling dragon appears, radiating power and awe. The fish is ecstatic, exclaiming how cool it is and eagerly asking if it can truly become a dragon. It imagines the strength it will gain, feeling literal shivers of excitement, amazed that this is far beyond what it had imagined. The fish imagines soaring through the sky if it became a dragon, envisioning itself breathing powerful fire, fueled by determination. It vows to definitely become a dragon. With resolve, it asks the voice from heaven how to level up, declaring it's time to start grinding. The voice instructs the fish to open its mouth, then close it. The fish complies, and the voice confirms it has gained experience points, raising its level from 1 to 2. The fish protests, insisting it caught nothing, but the voice insists it caught prey and urges it to look closer. Confused, the fish peers closer and sees tiny plankton waving hello. It realizes the first thing it eats in this new world is plankton and laments the situation. Yet it brightens, understanding it can easily gain plenty of experience points by hunting plankton. The voice announces the fish has reached the limit and can evolve. Excited, the fish eagerly urges itself to evolve. As evolution begins, it notices its stats have barely changed, only growing a little bigger. Though it understands everything, it feels its status hasn't improved much despite the evolution. The fish notices its growth is barely noticeable and decides to return to eating more plankton. Experience points keep coming in, but leveling up becomes increasingly difficult. After an hour, the fish feels the struggle to gain levels intensify. Suddenly, another fish confronts it harshly, demanding to know why it is there. The fish looks on, puzzled by the sudden hostility. The fish asks the voice from heaven about the other fish, wanting to know if it can eat them. The voice explains the fish are male tango, about 10 centimeters long, living in shoals. It warns that larger fish use smaller ones as bait to lure prey. The fish questions if people eat these smaller fish, uncertain if it's safe. Suddenly, the smaller fish whirl through the water, causing chaos. The fish crashes into a rock, stunned and hurt. It notices a crack forming in the stone where it hit. The fish reacts with surprise, realizing the environment is changing around it. The fish panics as the shoal of male tango surround it. Their expressions sinister and mocking. It wonders if they have gone mad and feels the urgency to devise a plan quickly. The fish's fear grows as the hostile group closes in, forcing it to think fast to survive. The fish panics, realizing it's about to die, and frantically tells itself to think. It angrily snaps back at the voice warning it of its fate. With determination, the fish lunges forward, shouting, "Take this!" as it attacks the threatening group. The fish darts away swiftly, acknowledging it should swim away. It hides among dense underwater plants, relieved to find cover. It wonders why the other fish were so strong, and the voice explains that the male tango themselves are weak, but have a special skill that makes them tough. The voice reveals their skill, sharpness, lets them use their tail fin like a sword. The fish asks if it has any similar skills, and the voice confirms it does. The fish learns about skills like long tongue, for hunting prey, and glowing to blind enemies. But it dismisses those as useless. Suddenly, the male tango close in, startling the fish. The fish panics as the male tango find it and close in rapidly. The voice urges it to use the glowing skill, but the fish hesitates, questioning if now is the right time. Frustrated, it yells that it will trust the voice and prepares to act as the hostile fish swarm closer. The fish clenches itself tightly, then shouts, "Take this!" as it activates the glowing skill, emitting a blinding light that startles the surrounding male tango fish. The hostile fish recoil in surprise as the glow spreads rapidly. The fish gasps, blinded by its own light, exclaiming, "My eyes!" It pants heavily, realizing it nearly killed itself with the flash. A voice informs it that it gained the skill resistance and eliminated all enemies, effectively killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The fish reacts with disbelief and frustration, while smaller fish nearby acknowledge the move as unpleasant but effective. The voice advises the fish to eat the stunned enemies before the glowing effect fades. The fish hesitates, feeling bad about eating them alive, and struggles to swallow its prey whole. The voice explains that what the eyes fear, the fins do not, encouraging it to use the long tongue skill to reduce the time needed to consume them. The fish watches anxiously as the glowing effect begins to subside. Contemplating whether it can eat 2 fish at once, the fish decides to try. It activates the long tongue skill, opening its mouth wide enough to swallow a fish whole. Shocked by how wide its mouth can open, the fish prepares to consume its prey in 1 gulp. The fish swallows multiple smaller fish in 1 gulp, amazed at how wide its mouth can open. Something no normal fish could do. It reflects that its glowing skill wasn't what it expected, but it can turn these unexpected skills into an advantage. The fish marvels at how much it ate in 1 sitting. Feeling glad it killed those fish, the fish notices it has gained enough experience points to evolve. Reaching level 12, it learns it can evolve into an adult bluefish and sees its current stats and skills, including sharpness. Curious, it asks about these new skills and whether they came from the evolution or a skill called malatangos. The fish is told about beginner's edition skills, which every living being has. These skills can be activated and are divided into 2 types, one of which can be used automatically. The fish listens intently as examples of activated skills like ignition and strength are shown. It learns there are 2 ways to get skills, through evolution or race change, and by gaining resistances from exposure or attacks. The fish connects this to when it gained sharpness and glowing resistance, understanding how skills and resistances work in this world. The fish realizes the source of its new skill, connecting it to having eaten all those smaller fish. It focuses on its tail, now glowing with the sharpness skill, and decides to try using it. Suddenly, it darts forward at high speed, surprising itself with the power. The fish marvels at how sharp its skill is, comparing it to Malatango's skill. It happily praises evolution and reads a beginner edition manual. Feeling amazed, the fish prepares to move on to the next part of the manual, eager to learn more. Suddenly, a slimy, menacing eel monster appears, causing the fish to panic. The eel's grotesque mouth and movements terrify the fish, who struggles to comprehend what kind of creature it is facing. The eel wraps around the fish tightly, explaining it is a river mixin that embraces its prey and secretes strong acid to soften and consume it. The fish panics as its fin starts melting from the acid, biting back in desperation and angrily asking if the eel is made of rubber while demanding to be let go. The fish struggles as the eel monster wraps tightly around it, swallowing the remnants of the malatangos it had eaten. Shocked, The fish wonders if the eel was drawn by their scent. Panicking, the fish pleads for the eel to stop and asks if it will be eaten too. It tries to activate its sharpness skill, but nothing happens. Desperate, the fish lashes out, shouting to take this as it attacks the eel. The fish's attack bounces off the eel without effect, leaving it in pain and fearing death. It checks its HP, barely holding on at 2 out of 35. An unseen voice advises combining skills, but the fish demands a faster explanation. The voice urges the fish to combine large eater and sharpness immediately, emphasizing no time to choose and just to make it strong. The fish, surprised, realizes it has acquired the skill fangs and questions if it's the same as large eater as the eel closes in. The fish insists the skill is different as the eel monster's jaws snap open wide. The eel suddenly bites down fiercely, its sharp teeth clamping onto the fish tightly. The eel's powerful jaws tear into the fish's body with brutal force, shredding flesh as the skill, fangs, activates. The fish struggles, but the damage is severe and relentless. The fish gasps in shock at the overwhelming power of the skill as the eel swallows the remains of the defeated enemy. The fish, battered and barely alive, notices the water beginning to turn muddy. It breathes a sigh of relief, thinking it narrowly escaped death. The fish suddenly feels numb and weak, confusion overtaking it. A voice warns that it lost a large amount of blood and must eat the defeated enemy to recover. Panic rises as a countdown to death begins, leaving the fish desperate and terrified. The countdown to death continues as the fish gasps, realizing it will die in 78 seconds. Gritting its teeth, it forces itself to eat despite the pain, knowing it must use all its remaining strength. The fish summons the skill fangs and braces itself as the eel monster's jaws snap wide open, ready to strike. The fish bites into the eel's flesh, enduring the searing acid that threatens to melt its mouth. Determined not to give up, it chooses to suffer the pain rather than die. Suddenly, the fish gains resistance to acid, and its wounds stop hurting. It begins to recover, biting into the eel with renewed vigor. As the fish devours the eel, a voice confirms it has regained half its HP and is no longer in danger. The fish marvels at its survival, noting its wounds must have healed faster since evolving. It contemplates the evolution stages, realizing it must eat the rest of the maxin to evolve further. The fish suspects the eel tried to kill it. The fish addresses the defeated maxin, acknowledging it was a strong opponent and now it's time to eat it. It questions if, as an adult, the evolution tree should have ended, but since it can evolve into a dragon, the journey continues. The fish imagines transforming into a flying fish with blue scales, its final ideal form, and wonders if it should change races after becoming an adult. The fish wonders aloud what it will evolve into. Dreaming despite the absurdity of the thought, it learns its race will change, and it will be able to choose between two paths. Nelma or Maxin, the fish reacts with surprise and contemplation at this choice. Excited, the fish exclaims that it has already reached the race change stage. It questions how to choose, then realizes it can evolve beyond just being a fish. It understands there are different types of dragons it could become. The fish imagines various dragon forms. A wolf dragon, a frog dragon, and a cat dragon. Then it hesitates, recalling the possibility of becoming a slimy dragon if it evolves as a Maxin. Horrified, it rejects the slimy dragon form and insists it wants to evolve into Nelma instead. Evolution begins painfully, the fish feeling crushed and overwhelmed by the rebuilding of its body. It cries out in agony, barely able to tolerate the pain, and questions why this wasn't mentioned earlier. Despite the suffering, the fish powers through, shouting "Hoop!" as the transformation progresses. The fish gasps in surprise as it realizes its race has truly changed. Feeling slightly bigger now, it reflects that it was the size of a bluefish all along and notices new antennae forming. Excitedly, it declares it will soon become a dragon. The fish envisions a branching evolution chart with various dragon forms and other creatures. Understanding that changing its race will make it stronger, it gleams with hope, confident it will eventually evolve into a dragon. Joyfully, the fish announces its first race change and eagerly checks its new status. It notices many stats have increased but is confused why some have decreased, especially its HP. The fish learns this is a feature of race change, involving a massive reduction of max level and characteristics, which frustrates it. The fish studies a comparison showing that although its level resets to 1, it becomes stronger overall after race change. It discovers the plus 80 attack boost comes from a skill called Fangs, and reviews new skills like Hardness and Body Strengthening, Rain, which improve its physical form when it rains. Despite some skills sounding lame, the fish is thrilled by its new abilities and the control accuracy of Water Flow Control. The fish eagerly examines its new skill, Water Flow Control. As swirling water spirals from its tail, it imagines a mage casting magic, trembling in surprise at the concept of magic itself. Excited, The fish wonders if it can become a mage and anxiously questions the skill's strength. With determination, it focuses on mastering water flow control, ready to test its newfound power. The fish laments its previous attempt as lame and realizes it needs to build up its power instead of releasing it all at once. It focuses intensely, chanting water flow control, as a swirling vortex of water spirals from its tail, growing larger and more powerful. With determination, the fish unleashes a massive torrent of water, shouting fire, as the powerful stream surges forward with overwhelming force. Reflecting on its childhood dream, the fish admits it was weak back then but always wanted to use magic. It laughs nervously while using the skill, but its MP bar drains rapidly. When the MP runs out, the fish struggles and admits it really can't continue. A warning appears. If MP runs out, paralysis will occur. The fish panics, realizing that if attacked now, it would die. It can't move or use skills, feeling completely stuck. After an hour passes with no attacks nearby, the fish notes its solitude, floating quietly and helplessly. The fish worries about being stuck downstream, vulnerable to enemies and easy to kill. It admits being blinded by the skill's power and forgetting its drawbacks. Asking to learn about Nelma's characteristics, it reads that Nelma is a fierce fish that prefers to breed and hunt on rainy days but is often hunted due to ecosystem changes. The fish reacts uneasily to this information. The fish requests the characteristics of the adult bluefish again, reading that it is a rare individual with thick scales and a rigid body, whose attacks aren't scary. It reflects on evolving from tasty prey and confesses disliking both forms. It reveals having been human once and fears being hunted in eternal life, finding people scary. The fish gets tangled in algae but decides to sleep there as darkness falls, hoping to restore its MP by morning. It settles on a stone pillow and drifts off, wishing to do its best the next day. Suddenly, it senses something and awakens with a start. The fish notices writing on a nearby rock asking if anyone is there, and panics upon hearing Japanese. It wonders if someone else is present, spotting more rocks with messages arranged in order. It fears the other might have already been eaten but is alarmed by the signs of another presence. The fish reads a message carved on a rock. I come here every morning. If you can read it, stay in the algae. It wonders if anyone is nearby and decides to scream and wait for a response. Suddenly, it notices the inscriptions are in Japanese and shouts out in surprise. It wonders if the other person hasn't arrived yet. Time passes as the fish waits alone, shouting every hour. It acknowledges the silence, deciding to scream hourly, growing increasingly frustrated as noon arrives with no one responding. Suddenly, another fish appears, startling the first. The newcomer asks if the first fish is Japanese, which it confirms. The newcomer admits to writing the messages on the rocks and expresses surprise at meeting someone here. The newcomer tearfully explains how scary it was to suddenly become a fish and hear a voice in its head. Struggling alone for a whole month, the first fish listens empathetically, understanding the hardship of waking up in an unfamiliar world and always hiding in fear. The newcomer fish admits it wasn't very lucky in its past life. Pausing somberly, it reveals that at 17, it was an agent. The first fish asks if it remembers its past life and shares it can't recall anything. Asking about the newcomer's memories, the newcomer explains it got caught, shocking the first fish. It then confesses that it was tortured until death, causing the first fish to scream in disbelief and horror. The newcomer fish acknowledges the other's short life but reassures that surviving so long under harsh conditions is remarkable. It questions if the first fish is in a hurry and asks if it wants to know about this world. The first fish admits fear of swimming alone but is willing to listen. It reveals interest because it was an agent in its past life. They quickly hatch a plan to explore the world together, hoping to become friends by combining their strengths to defeat enemies and learn more. The newcomer confidently decides the other will agree, but the first fish suddenly refuses, surprising the newcomer with a firm rejection. The newcomer warns of demons and dangerous creatures lurking around, making the thought of venturing out daunting. The first fish accepts the decision reluctantly, apologizing and expressing hesitation to go. It prepares to share its experiences in this strange world, pondering where to begin. The first fish suggests heading to its base as darkness approaches, surprising the newcomer. It explains that many creatures recently left the area, mysteriously heading upstream as if following someone. But thankfully they did not attack. The fish reflects on the sudden disappearance of life around them, setting a somber tone. They arrive at a crevasse in the rock, a safe hiding spot if attacked. The first fish admits it often sees dangerous monsters alone and confirms the fear involved. It stresses that sooner or later, the weak become dead meat, so growing stronger is key to survival. The newcomer asks about the first fish's final evolution form, and it eagerly insists on sharing its answer. The first fish imagines evolving into majestic creatures. A dragon, a hippopotamus, a Pegasus, a Kirin, or a Fenrir, the newcomer reacts with excitement and awe, especially at the idea of becoming a dragon. The newcomer reveals its own final evolution. A turtle, which surprises the first fish. The newcomer tries to defend the choice, saying being a turtle can be cool, but the first fish feels depressed by the revelation. Despite the newcomer's encouragement, the mood turns somber as it asks to see the newcomer's status. The newcomer's status screen shows high defense, 6 times higher than the first fish's, and impressive skills like natural recovery and resistance. The first fish is impressed by these abilities but shocked that the newcomer has only evolved twice. While it has evolved 4 times, the newcomer insists a turtle can be cool, trying to lift the first fish's spirits. The newcomer reveals its final evolution form as a heavily armored turtle-like creature, boasting the ability to reflect any attack and recover with the help of a skill. The first fish, overwhelmed, admits the newcomer would be overpowered and probably stronger than it as a dragon. The newcomer's mood brightens suddenly, accepting its turtle evolution with enthusiasm. The first fish notes the quick change in attitude, while a smaller fish nearby reacts with shock. The scene shifts to a rocky underwater area where sharp needles are embedded in the stone, impervious even to large fish attacks. The first fish points this out, puzzled by the situation. The needles suddenly shoot out, startling the fish around. The newcomer and the first fish hide behind a rock, questioning if the attacker is insane and if the other creatures fled because of him. The newcomer spots them and shouts that they have been noticed. A pufferfish shoots a long needle at a fish, who narrowly dodges. The injured fish grimaces in pain from a deep wound. Another fish panics, shouting that the injured one must hide in the cave to survive. The injured fish insists it will survive despite the wound, while the other fish remains worried and stressed. The injured fish plans to use a glowing skill to get closer to the pufferfish attacker, noting only one enemy remains while the others fled upstream. It confidently declares it still has some HP and will handle the fight. The pufferfish inflates, preparing to shoot needles one at a time, which the injured fish plans to dodge to close the distance. The pufferfish fires needles rapidly, forcing the injured fish to dodge desperately. The fish narrowly avoids the needles, but the tension rises as the pufferfish continues its assault. The worried companion gasps and watches anxiously as the injured fish struggles to evade the relentless attacks. The injured fish is struck by a needle and pinned against a rock, unable to move. It laments its fate, fearing death as the pufferfish prepares another attack. The companion watches helplessly, shouting in distress while the pufferfish looms menacingly, ready to strike again. The injured fish narrowly dodges a needle attack, but a companion warns it that a hit would mean death. The pufferfish fires relentlessly, yet the injured fish realizes its body is surprisingly tough and shrugs off the assault. The companion, trembling and tearful, admits feeling terrible for being weak and scared, hiding from the world. Despite this, the injured fish confesses that the companion gave it confidence instead of ridicule, even when it revealed its final evolution would be a turtle. The companion tearfully admits fear watching the injured fish get beaten, but refuses to hide while others suffer. The injured fish, surprised, is encouraged by a new ally who proposes teaming up. The injured fish commands the ally to cover it as it charges forward to attack the pufferfish. It strikes fiercely, declaring the attack is for bullying its friend, as the battle intensifies with renewed determination. The injured fish lunges forward, biting fiercely at the pufferfish with sharp fangs. The pufferfish reels back, stunned. As the attack lands, nearby, the companion watches anxiously, sweat dripping as the battle intensifies. The companion cheers, calling the injured fish bro, and celebrating the victory. The injured fish humbly credits the companion's courage and toughness. The companion, eyes shining with tears, declares a desire to grow stronger and share more adventures together. They eagerly propose friendship, and the injured fish, though confused, accepts with gratitude. The two fish excitedly discuss creating new names for themselves in their new lives. The injured fish is named Orin, a Nelma type, while the companion is Rysen, a blackfish type, with a poetic origin for his name. Their bond solidifies as they embrace their fresh start. The injured fish wonders aloud if all the others swam upstream to evolve, sensing something mysterious guiding them. A massive, ominous fish lurks nearby, its sharp teeth bared, hinting at a deeper threat beneath the surface. The white fish explains that the mountain has reached its limit, so evolution is now possible. The darker fish questions if it's too early since the amount eaten hasn't changed, but the white fish insists it's time. The darker fish acknowledges the white fish's top-notch training. Suddenly, the white fish declares it will evolve first, shouting with determination as evolution begins. A detailed profile reveals the white fish's name as Orin, leader of the Rain Kings, described as a big eater with a tough body and jaw, flagged as a top-priority subjugation fish. Oren contemplates his new skills and wonders if he can synthesize them to use simultaneously. He decides to combine body strengthening with rain strengthening and add some defense by including part strengthening. The darker fish listens attentively. Oren completes synthesizing a skill called Adenko Acuten Ko, Evil Tenko, which boosts physical ability and hardness to activate constantly. He notes some conditions but finds it convenient to have it active all the time. The darker fish smiles warmly, happy they can both hear the voice of the earth, celebrating their reincarnation together. Oren calls himself Sora's voice, realizing it's essentially the same. The darker fish excitedly asks if he can evolve too. Expressing gratitude for the chance, Oren is cautious but pleased, telling him there are two kinds of evolution and asking him to take a look. The darker fish beams with joy, announcing he can evolve. Oren urges caution as they prepare to examine the two choices carefully. The darker fish debates which evolution path to choose, weighing the merits of rockfish and bedrock fish. The rockfish has scales as hard as rock, useful for weapons, while the bedrock fish stays still, producing a scent that lures prey and disrupts the ecosystem. The lighter fish suggests using incense since bedrock fish can't move, but the darker fish leans toward rockfish, believing it would be better. They realize the incense drifting downstream explains the strange fish behavior in the river. The darker fish enthusiastically declares his intent to evolve into a rockfish, and the lighter fish agrees, rallying him to fight and return to Kawamoto. The darker fish's new form is revealed as a rockfish named Raizen, with a new skill called Rock Shot that fires his own scales as projectiles, which regenerate quickly. The lighter fish warns that defense usually means lowered stats after evolution, questioning how tough he will become. The darker fish laments carrying scales like a hero's shield, while the lighter fish jokes about his strictness. The lighter fish encourages the darker one to try crafting skills since the synthesized skill will disappear. The darker fish proposes combining Rock Shot with part strengthening to create Rock Gun, a skill that fires flying scales continuously with rapid regeneration. The lighter fish praises the idea, and the darker fish eagerly tests the new attack. The fish launch a powerful attack, smashing rocks with explosive force. One fish notes the attack is stronger than the needle in the river Sunbon but consumes too much energy, admitting he can't match his brother's biting power. The lighter fish offers to take the lead while the darker one covers the rear, both readying themselves for battle. 3 days later, the group moves upstream amid a bustling river filled with fish and monsters. They prepare to eat the remaining river Sunbon to boost their lower stats and get ready for the upcoming boss fight. The lighter fish expresses nervous excitement at the crowded scene. Suddenly, strange smoke appears, confusing the fish as they wonder where the newcomers came from. The darker fish asks if the smoke is from the bedrock incense. Checking on his brother who was smoking earlier, the brother assures he's fine, speculating the smoke might not affect them. They decide to follow the smoke to find the bedrock. The smoke thickens as they approach, coming from a rock that isn't actually a rock. The fish realize the bedrock might be close, their anticipation growing as they near the mysterious source of smoke. A massive, terrifying creature emerges, its huge mouth wide open, causing panic among the fish. They realize this is the feared bedrock. One fish anxiously wonders if they can defeat it alone, while another insists on knowing if he personally can defeat it. The darker fish urges Z2N to break down the rocks surrounding the creature, hoping this will give them a chance. Z2N confidently accepts the task and launches a powerful attack, shattering the rocks. The fish celebrate the success of their plan, believing they can now proceed. The bedrock roars furiously as it breaks free from the rubble, its anger evident. The fish recoil in fear, overwhelmed by the creature's ferocity. The bedrock unleashes a barrage of sharp, flying scales like missiles, striking with deadly precision. The fish scream in shock, questioning the nature of the attack. One explains it is the high-level skill of the rock launcher called Rock Gun. Sora anxiously asks if Raizen is okay as he struggles on the ground. Raizen insists he wants to get stronger despite the enemy's overwhelming power. The larger fish calls for a retreat and regroup, doubting if they can handle the foe. Raizen resolves to act, suddenly launching himself forward at high speed. Sora shouts in surprise, watching Raizen dart toward the enemy. Raizen is swallowed whole by the massive creature. Screaming inside its jaws, Sora and another fish watch helplessly as Raizen disappears down the creature's throat. Shouting his name in panic, the enemy's mouth slams shut with a thunderous impact, trapping Raizen inside. Inside the creature's mouth, Raizen struggles desperately, biting with his skill Fang Jaw but failing to pierce the tough hide. He worries that if they don't defeat the enemy soon, Raizen will be lost. The larger fish urges that Raizen's high defense buys them time, and he promises to help no matter what, despite the pain. Raizen refuses to let go, calling himself the precious comrade of the larger fish. Raizen realizes he gained a new skill after evolving, but even this new power only stings the enemy's teeth. He admits he can't defeat the creature with his current skills and must keep synthesizing new ones to fight back. The enemy's jaws clamp down tightly, but Raizen's determined eyes show he's not giving up. Sora's voice commands to combine the Fang jaws with the stiff jaws, and the larger fish acknowledges the order. The synthesis of rigid jaws begins, the teeth locking together with a sharp, grinding sound. The process completes, forming a new, formidable jaw structure. The newly formed jaws snap open fiercely, signaling a new skill activation. The larger fish's eyes narrow in determination, refusing to lose despite the enemy's hardened defenses. His resolve strengthens as the new power surges, ready to fight back. The enemy's jaws slam shut with a crushing force, revealing teeth harder than diamonds. The massive mouth clamps down tightly, its terrifying strength evident as the creature's fierce eyes glare through the gaps. Sharp, diamond-like scales fall away, but the hardness remains unyielding. A sharp projectile strikes the enemy's jaw, but it barely phases the creature. The attack is identified as a rock gun, yet it proves too weak to break through. The enemy mocks the move's power, challenging the attacker to endure more. Determined, the creature grins, ready for a prolonged battle. The enemy's jaws snap and grind fiercely, shards of its own scales flying as it prepares to retaliate. It snarls, daring the opponent to see who will fall first in this brutal fight. The tension escalates as the creature's ferocity intensifies, signaling a deadly clash ahead. Exhausted and wounded, the smaller fish gasps for breath near the fallen enemy. He acknowledges the foe's overwhelming strength and credits his survival to the hard-fanged jaw skill. Despite the heavy toll, he remains alive, staring at the defeated but formidable adversary with a mix of relief and respect. The smaller fish apologizes for causing worry, but the other scolds him for nearly dying after being swallowed whole. He promises to be more careful, admitting impatience from hearing that meat from bedrock was inedible. Another fish expresses relief that some incense remains and that another fish is still alive, responding with a firm, "Yes, sir." The conversation shifts to a new skill the smaller fish synthesized, surprising the others with an attack power boost of about threefold. The power levels of two jaw skills are compared, showing one at level 250 and the other at 80. The fish explains that the sound they hear isn't meat, revealing why the hard meat was edible. They discuss the strength of bedlock, noting that only half has been eaten but its experience points are impressive. The smaller fish excitedly realizes it can now evolve. As its evolution points have maxed out, the others express amazement and curiosity about the evolution, especially since the creature is a snake that can swim and crawl but is protected due to poaching. The idea that evolving into a snake-like form means losing the ability to land on land causes excitement about entering a new stage on land from the river. A tense moment arises as one fish tells Raizen he must leave, calling him his only comrade in battle and expressing reluctance to abandon him. Raizen downplays it, saying it's nothing. The other fish resolves to evolve first, determined to make the most of the limited time they have left together. The fish announces its evolution to clay carp, explaining its ability to create and use clay and earth to purify polluted land and combat diseases that prevent decay. It excitedly calls this part 2 of its magic and asks for an opinion on its new form titled human, which appears as a clay figure. The fish urges its brother to eat as much as possible while he still can, commanding him to get bigger. The brother complies, though he worries if his sibling is okay with being the only one eating. The first reassures him not to worry. A week passes, and the fish is grateful that creatures have returned to the river, allowing them to steadily grow stronger. The fish praises its brother for becoming more skilled, crediting his help. A detailed explanation of the brother's new abilities appears. He can fly his own scales to attack, fire continuously, and parry attacks with a scale shield that regenerates and deploys only when sensing life-threatening danger, requiring a week to recharge. He also gains a new resistance to shot attacks and can destroy opponents' barriers if he surpasses them. Concerned about the brother's well-being, the fish asks if he feels unwell after eating so much. The brother insists he's fine and fuel efficient. The fish encourages him to keep eating and evolving. Shocked, the brother questions how the fish gained experience points independently. Recalling it had only one meal's worth of leeway the day before, the fish reveals it gained experience from plankton, smiling as tiny plankton float nearby. A voice warns that the only evolutionary path left is the water snake, and if no choice is made, evolution will stop here. The fish hesitates, nervously laughing when asked what's wrong, while another calls him Aniki with concern. The smaller fish asks if Aniki can get on land, prompting a surprised reaction. Aniki explains that it was once an option for evolution, but he didn't consume all the bedrock. The smaller fish pleads for Aniki to wait on land first, but Aniki remains silent. Conflicted, the smaller fish insists evolution is the only option and worries Aniki will be left alone again. Aniki admits he doesn't want to break up with his brother. Aniki reflects on the kindness he's received since meeting his brother, but laments that his brother can't advance because of him. Tearfully, he vows to catch up, while the smaller fish warns him not to be careless or he'll be overtaken. The smaller fish notices Aniki is putting on a brave face despite his pain. The smaller fish urges Resita to hurry and travel together again, warning he'll be left behind if he keeps spacing out. Resita, determined, promises to become as strong as his brother. They share a fist bump, tears of resolve shining in their eyes. Responding to Sora's voice, Resita commands to evolve. His body glows and scales begin to form, a burning pain surging through him as he feels himself transforming into another creature. Resita completes his evolution into a water snake, proudly declaring his new form. He bids farewell to Gobo, who admires him as a master. Resita warns that snakes are lung suckers, emphasizing the challenge of his new form. On land, Resita struggles to breathe, gasping and realizing snakes lack gills, despite the difficulty. He recalls his promise to see Raizen again and wishes he could have stayed longer with him. The forest looms ahead as he pushes forward, determined. The snake marvels at finally tasting human food, savoring the sweet apple with delight. He breathes deeply, relishing the sense of plants and the sensation of being on land after so long. The taste surprises him, a sharp contrast to his fish days when he had no sense of taste. Grateful, he wonders if Raizen was fed the food too. Suddenly, a giant squirrel appears, startling the snake with its enormous size. The snake is shocked to realize the apple he ate belongs to the squirrel, who approaches menacingly. Panic rises as the snake senses danger. The squirrel lunges fiercely at the snake, who apologizes frantically. The snake questions if this is truly the end, but insists his adventure is just beginning. The squirrel's attack crashes down with force, striking the snake hard. The snake struggles under the squirrel's powerful bite, realizing how harsh and unforgiving the land is compared to water. The difficulty of surviving on land weighs heavily on him as he gasps in pain, the predator's jaws closing around him. The snake screams in terror as a massive dinosaur lunges with its jaws wide open. It narrowly escapes the snapping teeth, slithering away just in time while the dinosaur's claws scrape the ground fiercely. The snake panics, yelling for the dinosaur not to chase it. The dinosaur pounds the earth with thunderous steps, closing the distance rapidly. The snake spots a narrow gap between the dinosaur's legs and makes a desperate dash for it. Inside a dark hollow, the snake trembles as the dinosaur's glaring eye watches it intently. The creature gnaws at the entrance with sharp claws, trying to reach the snake. The snake backs away, sweat dripping as the dinosaur's menacing presence looms. Exhausted and defeated, the snake lies on the ground as the dinosaur stomps away. The snake laments the dangers of the land. Overwhelmed by the many predators, it gazes out at a vast forest stretching to the horizon, contemplating the perilous journey ahead. The snake accepts its new reality, determined to live in this world from now on. It notices another snake nearby and feels like it's steadily approaching the dragon. One step at a time, it laments the inconvenience of having no arms or legs, unable to climb trees, and decides to check its stats since things aren't looking good. The snake discovers its name is Orin, a waterside serpent, and marvels at the many skills it has. It reads its stats, noting its HP, MP, attack, defense, and magic power, surprised by the high magical power. The snake learns about its special skills, including Heaven's Voice and Blessings of Rare Species, and the ability to create a waterflow spear. It realizes it's gaining more snake-like abilities. The snake decides to fight using magic and skills, focusing on mastering the waterflow spear. It emphasizes the importance of image and proficiency to get used to the skill. With determination, it summons the waterflow spear, preparing to give it a try. The spear, made of water, impresses the snake and a companion. The spear shoots forward with force, and the snake wonders how powerful it is. The spear strikes a tree, and the snake guesses it's the strongest attack it has yet. It notes that while the giant creature lacks enough firepower, long-range attacks bring it satisfaction. A fish asks if the mole needs something. While the mole moves stealthily through the grass, the fish admits hunger after only eating apples. The mole is described as a flying, blind mole that hunts by emitting ultrasonic waves to detect prey within 3 meters. The fish warns the mole that if it can't see, it will be killed in one swoop. The mole approaches cautiously, and the fish plans to use the mole's jaw to attack. The mole suddenly notices the fish, and the fish reacts with alarm. The mole debates that moving more will reveal its position by sound, but suggests finishing the fight from a distance. The fish readies its waterflow spear skill, focusing on the attack. The spear forms and shoots forward. Aimed at the mole senses the attack. The mole swiftly dodges the spear, surprising the fish. The fish realizes the mole's hearing is so acute it can detect even the slightest sound of an attack. the fish resolves to find a way to get past the mole's guard. The fish uses a stealth skill to move silently through the grass. Amazed that no sound is made, it sends out ultrasonic waves to locate the mole. The mole is caught off guard and the fish questions how it was found. The fish deduces the mole used ultrasonic waves to detect its position. The mole crashes into the grass with a loud impact, sending the snake-like fish flying in surprise. The fish groans in pain, dizzy and disoriented. While the mole recovers nearby, the fish wonders if the impact helped it escape the mole's attack range. The fish decides that sneaking alone won't suffice and plans to combine stealth with surprise attacks to track the mole. It recalls Sora's voice and attempts to synthesize it, activating a tracking skill called Trace that blocks the presence of a target by following them. Though it consumes magic points constantly, the fish readies itself as the mole remains unaware, caught off guard by the ultrasonic waves. The fish boldly offers to launch a surprise attack, but the mole struggles, tightly constricted by the snake's grip. The mole protests it can't move, but the fish warns not to underestimate the snake's tightness. Both are tense and sweating as the struggle intensifies. Suddenly, the fish bites down fiercely on the mole, activating its skill with a powerful snap of its teeth. The mole is caught in the brutal grip as the fish exclaims it has secured its target, preparing for the next move. The fish celebrates their first victory on land, relieved after a tough fight. They vow to gain their first experience points on land, aware that even small creatures here possess more intelligence than fish. As the fish devours its meal, it realizes its evolution points have maxed out and it can now evolve. Excitedly, it exclaims its readiness to evolve. The fish studies a list of evolutions, shocked to find the data worm, a giant worm said to restore barren earth and wreak havoc on villages. It learns about the mist snake, a snake that lives in fog and is elusive and noble. The fish worries it might become a worm dragon in the future, questioning if choosing a water type means it will always remain one. The fish pleads with Sora's voice to allow it to evolve into a mist snake. The evolution is confirmed with a bright flash, and the fish transforms. Gaining a new form and stats as a mist snake, it acquires a new skill called mist manipulation, which allows control over particulates in the air. Despite the transformation, the fish reflects that it was a terrible choice. As dusk approaches, the mist snake returns home, telling others they can rest safely in a hole that escaped a dinosaur. Proudly, it boasts about defeating 2 enemies on the way back. Suddenly, the mist snake hears a familiar voice and stiffens, alert to the unexpected presence nearby. The dinosaur is caught off guard, surprised that the creature is still here and fighting. The smaller fighter taunts the dinosaur, asking if it's battling something. The dinosaur lashes out fiercely, jaws snapping close to the smaller figure. The smaller fighter spins through the air, dodging the dinosaur's attack as debris flies around. Hidden in the grass, a fish watches wide-eyed, shocked by the display. The dinosaur's powerful strike crashes into the ground nearby, shaking the earth. The fish identifies the smaller fighter as Gobak, a rare goblin species with poisonous purple skin that is avoided in swarms but known for brute strength and sharp claws. The fish wonders if Sora's voice could belong to a strong fighter nearby. The reptilian creature nearby confirms Gobak's rarity but notes its average strength. The fish resolves it must reach Gobak's level to survive. The fish hides in the grass, determined to set its first target on land. It steels itself, vowing to grow strong enough to defeat the fearsome Gobak. Morning breaks with the sun shining through the trees as a small snake-like creature wakes. Disturbed by the loud chewing sounds of Gobak nearby, it notices a dinosaur skeleton in the grass and laments its inability to perform a handstand, realizing the vast difference in strength between itself and others. The creature compares its physical abilities to Gobak and the dinosaur, acknowledging its weakness but hoping to compensate with skills. It resolves to eat the mole they caught yesterday to level up, expressing gratitude for the meal and noting that its evolution potential has reached the maximum. Reflecting on evolution options, it considers the data worm, a giant worm that can restore barren earth but causes destruction, and the water snake, an endangered species that must be protected. It decides to evolve into a water snake, confirming its current stats and feeling itself grow slightly larger and stronger. Reviewing its stats, the creature notes little change but highlights the unlocking of new skills, especially resistance. It marvels at the abundance of new abilities now available, including water manipulation, water-style sword, water wave, and mist manipulation. Overwhelmed by the sheer number of skills it has gained, the creature contemplates its overwhelming number of new skills, deciding to start by synthesizing one carefully to avoid creating a weak skill. It successfully synthesizes Mist plus Mist Manipulation into Manipulation Kasumi, and combines water-related skills into Mujinsuso or Infinite Water Control. Despite knowing it could have done this more efficiently by splitting skills by type, It resolves to proceed cautiously, confident it can handle it. It explains that skills were divided by type, then by attack and magic, showing a detailed list of its ordered skills. Frustrated it wasn't consulted, it demands to see the results, relieved to find everything perfectly arranged without flaws. The creature expresses gratitude for Sora's voice, praising its quality while admitting it would have answered sooner if asked. After calming down, it decides to try out the new skill Manipulation Kasumi, preparing itself mentally for the attempt. Curious about the nature of Kasumi, it questions the difference between haze and fog based on density. It then activates the skill, creating a swirling fog around itself. Noting that the range of Manipulation Kasumi depends on how freely it can control the fog, it accepts the skill and prepares to use it. The skill's resistance shows multiple instances of invisible, leaving the user unable to see anything at all. Confused, the terrain appears to float inside their mind, revealing a wireframe landscape. They recognize the tree they live in and realize the topography within the fog is visible. The snake-like creature wonders if the other has a sonar role and concludes they can use this ability. The creature tests the next skill, Infinite Water Control, which allows creating and manipulating water without consuming it. It observes water floating and twisting freely, able to move as it pleases, naming directions left and right. It questions how to use the skill properly, noting that placing a lightweight object in water lets it be carried. Suddenly, an idea sparks in its mind. The creature successfully flies using the skill. Though it struggles to keep balance and fears slipping through, it starts to get the hang of flying and decides to ascend higher. Spotting a large river from their fish days, concerned about another's well-being, it hopes they aren't a shut-in but is relieved to at least see them. Suddenly, a shock hits as something unexpected happens. An enormous bird swoops down and captures the flying creature, which cries out in surprise and pain, demanding to know who the attacker is. The bird is identified as a Recap, known for tearing prey with tough claws, weakening them, and bringing them back to its nest. It is omnivorous, attacking prey indiscriminately and sometimes hunting in packs. The creature realizes a single bird can destroy a pack of wolves and fly at high altitudes, making it nearly impossible even for professional hunters to capture. This bird, a Recap, stands about 5 meters tall, dwarfing both humans and the creature itself. It notes that even one of these birds is dangerous, and if you have a habit of taking prey back to the nest, you can't eat it immediately. Returning to the nest might mean encountering another Recap. The Recap attacks fiercely, gripping the creature with its talons as it declares it will defeat it right here and now. The bird uses a skill called Gugenjindo, pulling the creature forcefully with its claws. The creature struggles, insisting its fangs won't reach the bird and demanding not to be underestimated as just a snake. It launches multiple flying spears formed from water, a skill called Rinsui Spear, which requires great proficiency to maintain. The bird reacts swiftly, feathers scattering as it dodges the attack. The creature cries out in frustration, unable to hit the Recap and feeling overwhelmed by the intense G-forces from the bird's rapid movements. The Recap screams as it maneuvers through the air, maintaining its grip on the creature. The creature commands a skill, challenging the bird with a sudden move. The bird, Miseo, reacts instantly, twisting sharply midair. A dense fog suddenly forms around them, confusing the creature as it anxiously searches for its opponent. It admits the fog would be terrifying if unexpected, but insists it's too early to be caught off guard. Water spears spin rapidly, launched like bullets from a water pistol skill. The bird stands firm amid the swirling spears, declaring a hit with confidence. The bird confirms its attack landed, spinning fiercely while spears pierce its feathers. It mocks the creature, saying it's about to fall. The creature struggles violently, flailing as the spears and mist overwhelm it. The bird grins wickedly, enjoying the upper hand. The bird unleashes a new skill, Infinite Water, enveloping itself in a water bubble midair. It taunts the creature for lowering its guard and warns it will drown in the air. The creature thrashes wildly inside the bubble, struggling to break free as the bird warns to release its grip if it intends to resist. The bird cries out that at this speed, they'll collide. The snake spirals downward, screaming in panic. The bird's fierce expression shows it's ready to fight. The snake's face hardens, realizing it hasn't lost yet. It questions if the bird switched from fleeing to attacking. The bird shouts it won't let the snake escape and traps it inside a water prison skill. The snake is immobilized, surrounded by glistening water bubbles. The bird taunts the snake, declaring it can't move. The bird summons a supercharged water spear, declaring it's the last attack. The spear launches toward the trapped snake. The snake snarls that the bird underestimated it and claims victory. The snake's tongue flicks as it braces for impact, while the bird watches anxiously. The snake acknowledges the bird's superior physical prowess but admits its own skills and wisdom surpass the bird's. The bird breathes a sigh of relief after narrowly avoiding defeat. It realizes it can't use any skills now and hears Sora's voice, prompting it to prepare infinite water control before crashing to the ground. The snake realizes it lacks enough energy to use infinite water control, with only 3 MP remaining out of 121. It stares silently at the shattered water prison and the broken spear. Panic sets in as it trembles. Admitting it doesn't know what to do and that it went too far, it frantically asks what they should do next. Determined, the snake commands to gather all the water pouring out immediately. It confirms everyone is present as it collects the water, but the amount is still insufficient. Suddenly, the snake begins to fall rapidly through the forest canopy, shocked by the unexpected descent. The snake spirals downward through the forest canopy, desperate and shouting it won't die, commanding the bird to deliver its body. The bird flaps fiercely, gripping the snake tightly, determined to keep it safe. The snake summons infinite water manipulation, filling its energy to full. It bursts into a water bubble, escaping death and gasping relief. Still cautious, it vows never to lower its guard in the wild world and wonders if the sky will stay clear. The snake notices it learned new skills. Multirinsue's spear and water shield, though it didn't evolve or synthesize anything. Confused, it questions this development as the bird urges it to check its skills. Suddenly, another eagle swoops down, attacking the snake with a terrifying screech. The snake plunges into water, shouting an emergency evacuation as the eagle claws at it. It lands in a quiet forest clearing, unsure if this is the right place. The snake calms, reviewing its skills while summoning multiple water spears to attack simultaneously, preparing for whatever comes next. The snake examines its skills, noting the water shield that automatically defends by surrounding it with water. It recalls the infinite water control and multiple water spears it now wields. Puzzled by these new abilities, it realizes developing a skill means creating one by using existing skills, not through evolution or synthesis, and wonders if this is really possible. The snake experiments, extending infinite water control to create thin, hard-to-see water threads. It reflects on how easy skills are to develop, demonstrating by placing a water thread on the ground. It hopes to trap enemies like the chained boar it imagines by using such water traps in battle. The snake activates a new skill called water capture, a mimicry trap that triggers when prey steps on the water. It practices moving the water with perfect timing. Excited to have found the skill they were searching for, a dragon appears, warning the snake not to get carried away. But the snake dreams of mastering the 1,000 skills of 1,000 dragons. Days later, the snake silently watches as a water spear pierces a chained boar named Pugy, successfully trapping it. The spear drips water as it lands precisely, confirming the snake's skillful control and the effectiveness of the water trap. The snake acknowledges its significant growth, reflecting on its improved skill proficiency. It explains that it belongs to a group of serpents that inhabit swamps and mud, using their own traps to hunt prey. Its stats display level 130th with balanced attack, defense, magic, and agility, alongside new resistances that neutralize poison and consume distractions and bewitchment. Nearby, a chained boar lies trapped, confirming the snake's progress. The snake notes the convenience of its antenna, linked to a trap that signals when prey is near. It demonstrates creating a mud doll, a skill allowing it to shape and move mud with shared vision. Though accuracy depends on proficiency, it explains that the skills acquired through evolution are subtle but useful. It reveals a skill synthesis combining Rinsui spear and water, enabling control over waterflow spears and threads, with mastery depending on the thread's strength. However, it admits the skill is not suitable for attacking the gourmand's jaw. The snake prepares to challenge Gobak, a large reptilian beast, using its long-range, high-precision attack skill. It explains that if the spear has a thread, it can move to support as well as attack, showing simple illustrations of spear and spear-throwing techniques. Suddenly, Gobak approaches menacingly, causing the snake to sweat nervously as it braces for confrontation. Gobak roars loudly, and the snake screams in terror as the beast lunges forward with claws extended. The ground shakes with the impact of Gobak's charge, and the snake scrambles to evade the attack, realizing the danger it faces from the powerful predator. The snake urges itself to hurry and run, but hesitates, questioning if it should wait. It sizes up the approaching beast. Noting this one is weaker than Gobak, determined, it refuses to run away, knowing it would never beat Gobak if it does. The snake commits to action, activating its skill to launch multiple spinning water spears. The beast snarls and lunges aggressively, claws slashing into the ground as the water spears fly toward it. The beast's foot suddenly lands heavily, causing the snake to flinch. The snake realizes the spears were a feint as the beast charges through the attack, splashing through puddles and closing in fast. The beast grunts in exertion, digging its claws into the ground as it prepares for another move. The snake watches warily, uncertain if the strange dragon-like creature appearing nearby is friend or foe. The beast's fierce roar echoes as it charges forward, its jagged teeth bared in a terrifying snarl. The snake celebrates its small victory, encouraging itself to use skills to overcome the challenge. Days pass as the snake reflects on its progress, determined to challenge the beast soon. It reveals a plan formed after observing the enemy's movements and capturing water along the path to prepare for the next encounter. The beast lumbers down the familiar road, its presence looming ominously. Hidden behind tall grass, the snake spots the beast and steels itself for the confrontation ahead. The snake senses the moment has come and activates its skill, launching multiple spinning water spears with precision. It resolves that if it can finish the beast with this attack, everything will be resolved. Spinning water spears slice through the air as the beast struggles to rise, grunting with effort. The snake confirms its aim, determined. The beast roars fiercely, swinging its massive claw in a powerful attack. The beast crashes down with devastating force, shattering the ground beneath it. Water spears scatter wildly, splashing as they break apart on impact. The snake recoils in shock, realizing the beast destroyed all its water captures and spears with a single shockwave. The beast snarls, eyes locking with the snake's in a tense moment of recognition. A massive boulder hurtles toward the snake, forcing it to dodge desperately. Panic rises as the snake admits the plan failed and the enemy now knows its location. The snake panics, realizing the beast used all its strength to shatter traps and spears. It admits losing sight of Gobak. The beast, Boa, laughs loudly, composed and unshaken, calling out its own name. The snake summons multiple spinning water spears with its skill, questioning if it needs to take the fight seriously. The beast watches calmly as the spears fly, but then swiftly dodges each one with natural ease. Boa suddenly gets wrapped tightly in ropes. Struggling to move, it growls in confusion, unable to break free. The snake taunts it for lowering its guard over a single water spear, noting Boa can't even move now. Dozens of water spears rain down from above, surrounding the immobilized beast. The snake calls out Boa's name, pressing the attack relentlessly as the spears descend in a deadly barrage. The snake commands, launching a deadly barrage of multiple spinning water spears at the enemy. The spears strike with explosive force, shaking the ground around the target's eye. The snake reflects on the risk, admitting it spent a lot of money on the attack and fears dying from it. It acknowledges the enemy's unknown power and the danger of close combat, knowing the fastest way to finish the foe would be a hard-fanged jaw strike. The snake warns that if it misuses its trump card, the situation will be reversed. The beast struggles, pierced by many spears, and lets out a pained growl. Boa roars fiercely, thrashing against the ropes binding it. The snake notices an ominous look in the beast's eyes and tenses in alarm. The snake watches as Boa's muscles visibly swell and claws grow sharper, signaling a shift into combat-specialized mode. The bleeding slows, with smaller wounds healing rapidly. The snake gasps in horror, calling the beast a monster as it displays superhuman strength, tenacity, mental fortitude, and rapid micro-recovery. Boa contemplates abandoning physics and changing tactics, focusing on skills, repetition, gasumi, and manipulation. The plan shifts as a swirling vortex forms near a river, with the snake realizing the need to lure the enemy into a watershed to maximize their skills. Gobak is called over for a backhanded attack. Gobak charges fiercely, claws extended, but misses slightly to the right. The snake readies a water shield, preparing for a one-shot attack if it lands. Rocks fly through the air as Gobak hurls them with brutal force. The snake shatters a crystal barrier, revealing Gobak hidden by skillful camouflage. The snake accuses Gobak of cheating by seeing through the invisibility. Gobak retaliates with a powerful strike, forcing the snake to dodge desperately. Gobak relentlessly pursues the snake, slamming the ground and launching attacks. The snake narrowly evades the onslaught, the battle intensifying as Gobak's raw power crashes down with overwhelming force. The snake realizes Moro has swallowed the attack whole, forcing it to dodge Gobak's punch. Despite deploying a water shield 5 times in a row, the snake barely avoids the strike as the crystal barrier shatters around it. Gobak's fierce assault sends shards flying through the air. Gobak launches himself into the river, crashing down with brutal force. The snake watches as the powerful figure lands, sending ripples across the water's surface. The snake struggles to move, realizing it has lost consciousness upon reaching the river. A voice suggests resting since they've entered a danger zone. But the snake refuses, determined to keep fighting. Gobak stalks through the forest nearby, already closing in. The fish-like companion pleads to be waited for, while the snake worries about Ryzen's condition and vows to break a promise to protect them. The snake steels itself, refusing to lose or die yet, acknowledging the concept of a nemesis who lets their guard down, and recognizing it still has room to spare until the end. The muscular Gobak roars defiantly, encased in a swirling water barrier, declaring an extra-large surprise for his opponents. He insists he won't drown so easily, thrashing inside the water. The snake watches in shock, realizing Gobak has exhaled forcefully underwater. Gobak unleashes a powerful water blast from his mouth, catching the snake off guard. The snake reels back, struggling to find a solution. Knowing this fight can't be settled easily, Gobak braces himself, muscles tense and ready. The snake vows to defeat Gobak before being swallowed whole, lunging forward with fierce determination. Gobak commands himself to move, dodging swiftly and striking the ground with brutal force. Gobak bites down hard, his jaws reinforced with a skill that causes cracks to form as he scales up in strength. The snake grits its teeth, refusing to die, remembering the promise made to Ryzen. The fish-like companion swims nearby, urging them onward as Gobak growls, calling out to Boa. The muscular Gobak screams in pain, clutching his severed fingers that drip blood. He taunts the snake, asking if this is what it was searching for, gasping heavily as the injury sinks in. Gobak bellows at Boa, furious and ready to fight back. He warns the snake that he doesn't want his antenna back after it was torn off and vows to make the snake regret it. Despite the injury, Gobak declares he will grow stronger with his damaged fingers, acknowledging he has reached his max but can still evolve further. The episode begins with a burst of energy as the snake, known as Orin or Tsuchihibi, the earth serpent, announces a new skill. Destructive soil flow, his HP and MP are fully restored, and he proudly declares his mastery over dirt and mud, able to create swamps anywhere as long as it's on the ground, favoring dirty water. Gobak lunges fiercely at the snake, roaring in rage. The snake swiftly dodges, whipping his body through the air, creating powerful arcs that send rocks flying as he evades the attack. The snake activates his skill, Infinite Water Control X10, promising to restrain Gobak with so much water that he can't drink it all. Gobak, despite having only one arm, still possesses incredible attack power. The snake acknowledges that although he evolved and fully recovered, letting his guard down would mean defeat in one shot. He braces himself as Gobak strikes fiercely, splashing water everywhere. Gobak charges again, but the snake notes that his skill isn't complete yet and that other skills can't stop him from moving. He prepares to repeat his move, but suddenly senses something, turning to look with a questioning expression as Gobak halts abruptly, eyes wide in surprise. The snake senses something strange as Gobak suddenly freezes in place. He wonders if Gobak stopped moving and questions why the beast is so wary now. The swirling water and debris around them reveal that the infinite water control, thought destroyed, is actually active as the destruction stream, a powerful force mistakenly selected earlier. The snake doubts this, but the destructive energy intensifies. The snake questions if Gobak's fear means he's strong, and confirms the destruction stream's tremendous destructive power. Gobak trembles and then suddenly bolts away, leaving the snake determined not to waste this opportunity. He notes the skill will take another 5 seconds to activate, and prepares to charge. Gobak lands with a roar, activating his fake swamp skill, which creates a swamp that looks like dirt or grass. The snake taunts Gobak, asking why he's been so scared despite all the time he's had. The swamp surrounds Gobak as he prepares for the next move. The snake declares he will let Gobak live as he wishes, the destruction stream swirling ominously overhead. Gobak remains tense and sweating, cornered by the overwhelming power closing in on him. The ground erupts violently as the destroyed earth and sand flow crashes down, shattering the terrain with overwhelming force. Amidst the chaos, Gobak is caught in the devastation, struggling to withstand the relentless assault. The destructive sand stream surges forward uncontrollably, leveling the landscape in its path. The sheer scale of the destructor's sand stream, unleashed by Shisa, threatens to obliterate everything, its power impossible to contain. The snake, drenched and exhausted, watches the aftermath with disbelief, acknowledging the disaster's magnitude. The once lush terrain is now a barren wasteland carved by the unstoppable force. The snake resolves to discover Gobak's fate, anxious whether he survived. Nearby, Boa lies injured but still breathing, narrowly escaping death. The snake prepares to drain life force but hesitates, determined to assess the situation first. The attack, named Guga Gaku, strikes with overwhelming force, signaling the end. Gobak lies defeated, barely conscious. While a small snake reflects on how evolution saved him from death, the snake acknowledges their victory at last. The snake laments the devastation caused, questioning what to do with the leveled area. Regretting the use of Sora's voice, it vows not to use that power again. Despite the destruction, the snake celebrates destroying the Gobak and advancing closer to the dragon. It credits Gobak's strength and experience for reaching max evolution, ready to finish the task. The snake explains the rare skill Tsuchiuja, the ability to summon and control earth serpents, marking evolution into an earth serpent. It eagerly anticipates defeating Gobak to become king, revealing stats and new skills like breaking stone style to crush rocks and mud armor for defense, though weak to fire. The snake plans to combine multiple skills, including water-style sword and poison fang, to enhance attack power. It also mastered water and earth-style barriers for defense and absorption skills to regenerate MP. The snake will use terrain remaking skills to create and control mud dolls, avoiding destructive streams to maintain balance. The snake, dizzy and unable to stand, wonders if mental exhaustion from the Gobak War is the cause. Despite still having HP and MP, it decides they should return home now that the Gobak is defeated and evolution achieved. Suddenly, a shadowy figure urges a quick retreat, warning of a landslide. The snake is startled by a shout about a huge white snake and questions if the voice is human, confused by the words. Awakening with a start, the snake wonders if it was unconscious. It notices it is confined inside a cage and questions the strange surroundings, asking if this is a ship. The snake recalls meeting a kind-hearted human before passing out, wondering if that person protected it. It is told to look around and notices the cramped space filled with various cages holding different creatures, including a human child. Panic sets in as the snake realizes it has been captured and fears being sold into a snakeskin wallet or bag. It is scolded for being unwary and struggles violently against the cage, biting fiercely in an attempt to break free. The snake struggles fiercely against the cage, frustrated that it won't break despite its strength. It learns the cage is an anti-demon beast cage that absorbs magical energy, rendering its powers useless. The snake is urged to think for itself instead of relying on others, but it panics, demanding help and experience points. Inside another cage, a frightened young girl shivers and calls the snake Mr. Snake. Expressing her fear, the snake excitedly notices she's a girl and introduces itself as Aurin, asking her name. The girl screams not to be eaten, while Aurin denies eating humans and questions what she means. Aurin reflects on its earlier anger when biting the cage, realizing it's just a human-sized snake with a hard-fanged jaw. It insists it's gentle, not scary. But the girl screams again. Aurin wonders why a little girl is caged among wild animals and questions the cruelty of the situation. Aurin observes the girl closely, noting her elementary school age, light clothes, scratches, iron collar, and shackles. It realizes this is a case of child kidnapping and human trafficking. Shocked, Aurin declares the place a crime scene with a horrified scream. The snake panics, realizing it will be sold alongside the girl and desperately tries to distance itself from her. The girl sits quietly, tears streaming down her face, as the snake wonders if this might be a conservation group instead of a trap. It considers that maybe the snake was taken into custody just before being sold. A large, scarred man bursts in, setting off alarms. The snake screams that he's a criminal, while the girl flinches in fear, clutching herself tightly. The man orders the snake to be quiet, causing the snake to nervously plead for calm. The girl remains huddled in her cage, trembling. The snake tries to comfort her but laments its inability to speak. It recalls a special skill it gained upon capture, the ability to understand past languages. The snake sadly realizes it cannot speak because it is a snake. Despite understanding language, it quietly sniffs and looks toward the girl, who softly hiccups and cries behind the bars. The girl curiously holds two small, jelly-like creatures, wondering if they are water. The creatures float and move near her feet, swirling around her hands. She watches in amazement as they combine into a single form. Her eyes sparkle as she softly utters the names, Njay, Sairi. She claps excitedly, praising the sparkling display like a star. She questions where the water came from and calls out to the white snake, asking if it understands language. The snake nods in response, showing it comprehends her words. The girl beams with joy, her fear replaced by a smile that reveals her true age. She reflects on the snake's clear emotions and asks if it has a name. The snake affirms, but she apologizes for not being able to read it. The snake admits the letters won't convert properly. She encourages the snake, counting on the words of the past. The girl rapidly fires questions about why the white snake was caught, where it lives, and if it has family or friends. She apologizes when realizing the snake cannot talk. Introducing herself as Elena, she admits she was scared to be alone but is glad the white serpent is there. The snake remarks on her lively nature as she eagerly chats behind the bars. The girl eagerly reaches out, expressing her excitement to work with the white snake. The serpent reacts with a hesitant wave of its tail. Unsure but resigned, she tightly grips the cage bars, showing determination. The snake wonders if it has finally stopped trying to escape. As it busily devours food underground, night falls, marking the passage of a few days. The snake insists it will never give up. A man with a scarred face discusses plans to sell the white snake at a major snakeskin specialty store in the next town. While another man doubts the snake's true value, the snake contemplates evolving to increase its power and skills, fueled by the experience points gained from eating the meat served to it. The girl lies exhausted nearby, quietly observing. The girl wakes from a nightmare, rubbing her eyes as the white snake gently nudges her awake. She thanks it for the wake-up, admitting she had a scary dream. The snake teases her about her worried expression. She solemnly recounts her past. Living in a small rural village with her family before being attacked by frightening people who captured everyone as slaves. She reveals the others are being taken away in another carriage. The girl reflects on her family, visualizing for humans together. She questions if one of them is herself and asks if the snake is referring to her family. She grimaces, realizing the gravity of the situation. She explains that her parents tried to rescue her and her older sister, but her father was killed. The white snake listens intently, sharing in the weight of her loss. The girl gently places a piece of meat on the white serpent's head, calling out to him. The serpent tells her it's okay to cry sometimes, but she insists she's fine and there's no point in crying. She strokes his head, telling him he can't hold back tears, but he admits he's been holding back for a long time and warns she'll make him cry. Tears finally spill down her face as she struggles to hold them back, her sobs breaking through. The serpent reflects on how strong she has been until now and wishes he could get her out of the cage, but feels powerless. She apologizes for crying and wipes her tears, asking if he means they should run away together. The serpent nods, but she declines, saying she can't just abandon the villagers behind. Her eyes glisten with tears as she adds there's more to it. She reveals she has an older sister named Satella who was captured with her, and asks the serpent to help her sister first. She explains she's being taken to a country called Salatana, but she doesn't know much and wants the serpent to help Satella before worrying about her. The serpent listens intently, understanding the weight of her request. She can worry more about her sister than herself, but rescuing Elena, who knows her location, is easier than finding her sister who knows nothing. Even if they rescue Elena, she refuses to leave the villagers behind. The serpent admits it might be safer not to rescue Elena right now. The girl brightens, asking if he will save her sister. She shows the serpent a jewel that their mother once had, hoping it will help identify her sister. The serpent questions this, and she laughs nervously, admitting she can't talk and that a giant snake would be scary. She explains the jewel is a secret between them and urges him to show it if he finds her sister. A few days later, she offers the serpent food, encouraging him to eat so he can grow big and escape the cage. The serpent gratefully accepts, and she thanks him for sharing the food. The serpent's level has reached its maximum, making evolution possible. When asked about his evolutionary destination, he reveals it is called the data worm. The serpent explains the data worm is the evolutionary form, but the girl is shocked that only berserk worms exist. The serpent reassures her that being taller will help him escape the cage. The girl moves to the edge of her cage, and the serpent's voice begins evolving, signaling the start of his transformation. The massive worm bursts through the ground, shattering wooden crates and sending people fleeing in panic. Its enormous body rises with a single large eye and a gaping, circular mouth, causing chaos in its wake. The worm, now fully emerged, struggles with the pain of its race-change evolution. Surprised by its own size, it anxiously examines its grotesque face, noting the single eye and the disturbing shape of its mouth. The worm hears a mysterious voice urging it to take this. Calming its instincts and hunger, the girl, Aurin, recognizes the creature as a dangerous Shirahibi and admits it looks frightening, apologizing for scaring others. Aurin, overwhelmed, describes the worm's drooling as sinsen, a softwood called a masuda. The worm, now calm, faces her silently as a small devil-like creature asks if she is a white snake, highlighting the worm's new form and her connection to it. Dark, ominous voices echo around the massive worm's grotesque mouth as the girl stands before it, trembling. She calls out to the serpent, asking if he is all right, noticing his hesitation and the scratching of his head. The worm struggles to control its own body, overwhelmed by the transformation. It fixates on the girl, unable to resist the urge to devour her, but she pleads for it to stop. The worm's monstrous mouth opens wide, teeth bared, while the girl stands frozen in fear. The girl screams desperately for the worm to stop as it lunges toward her with its gaping maw. Her voice cracks with terror, and she clutches the chain around her neck, trying to hold her ground against the advancing threat. A massive explosion erupts nearby, sending smoke and debris into the air. Two figures lie coughing and battered amid the wreckage, struggling to recover from the blast's impact as the chaotic aftermath settles around them. The girl sits near a massive, dark pit carved deep into the earth, coughing in surprise to find the white snake alive. She holds a broken, dripping fragment of the white snake's form in her hands, realizing it is damaged. She worries about the white snake's strange behavior since childhood. Hoping he is all right, nearby, a skeletal creature lunges forward, narrowly missing her. As she breathes a sigh of relief, the girl reflects on regaining her sense of self just in time, frustrated that she scared the white snake despite promising to save him. She questions the bizarre data worm, a round-eyed, berserk creature designed to restore the earth but prone to losing control. The data worm insists they cannot waste time chatting and warns the white snake could pass out at any moment, urging him to evolve quickly. The maximum DP limit is 30, but the white snake struggles, determined to push through despite his limits. As evening falls, the data worm gasps in relief, having narrowly escaped death. It reflects on the unexpected attack from its own kind and explains it turned the foe around and fed it for evolution. Concerned about the encroaching night and lurking monsters, it urges moving somewhere safe. The data worm surveys the quiet forest and declares their task complete. It inspects its new form, revealing it has changed race twice and now appears as an Udo snake, a species skilled at climbing and hiding, with a unique ability to control surrounding trees to trap prey. Surprised by the tree-controlling skill, the data worm is warned not to overreach, as this power only works in well-lit areas like branches and leaves. It then requests to see its past status as a data worm, reacting with shock at the displayed stats and realizing how far it has come. The data worm recalls the tough battle that took a long time to defeat a towering enemy and expresses regret for nearly eating Elena. It focuses on confirming its new skills and resistances, amazed by the many status cards mostly belonging to data worms. Determined, it decides to synthesize and organize them, accepting the cost of making Elena feel bad and resolving to move forward. The data worm reviews its new skills. Land Spirit, to purify and alter land within MP range. Assassin, to stealthily follow and kill a target. A sword that forms a sharp water blade cutting through or the ability to produce powerful acids and poisons in its fangs. And Heal Great, to mend deep wounds over time. It acknowledges its extensive healing capabilities affecting multiple targets. It notes the assassin skill excels at gathering information and scans a long list of abilities and resistances, including strong poison, cold resistance, curses, blindness, and more. After confirming its skills, it decides to start surveying the area from above using its infinite water manipulation. The data worm observes the vast forest below and spots a house hidden within. Curious, it resolves to take a closer look, approaching a large wooden gate guarding the property. Inside the enclosure, a horned man stands alert, prompting the data worm to recall a conversation about demons. A young girl named Aurin, chained inside a cage, explains that creatures in human form are called demi-humans, mentioning Alexis as a human race. The data worm reacts with surprise, realizing such races truly exist, sounding like another world. The data worm notes the torn, dirty clothes of a figure nearby and observes the area is covered in scars. The gate guarding the place is clearly in disrepair, yet it seems to protect something important despite the village's abandoned appearance. The data worm decides they have gathered enough information and prepares to infiltrate. Slithering through the village, the data worm confirms it was easy to enter since it is a snake. The village lies in ruins with very few people around, and no one is visible at all. The data worm hopes to gather human conversation soon and spots the largest house. Convinced someone must be inside, it resolves to enter. Inside the house, the data worm sneaks into the attic, where it can hear voices. A young woman named Tenda tells someone she can't breathe and wants to be left alone. A man warns her it's dangerous to be alone, though he's uncertain if that's true. The data worm listens intently, realizing it can hear the people's voices clearly. The woman wonders aloud when she'll be free to act as she wishes, while the man apologizes for forcing her into a pitiful life as a princess. The data worm feels a bad omen about the situation and suggests running away. Suddenly, the man notices the data worm and demands to know who it is. The man urgently tells the princess to step back as he regrets not using assassin, and instead casts a telekinetic capture spell, grabbing the segmented worm-like creature mid-escape. He reflects on the tough fight and wonders how the princess could see his exact position when she shouldn't have been able to. He calls out to Saya and launches another attack. The worm panics, realizing it was dragged down and trapped in the dust-filled, crumbling house. It urges to run but struggles, unable to miss or escape. Emerging from the dust and debris, the man and the princess stand ready to fight, acknowledging they have no choice but to face the battle head-on. Saya's eyes glow intensely as he grips his sword, the air thick with tension. The data worm freezes, sensing danger. With a fierce shout, Saya leaps forward, swinging his blade powerfully toward the ground, sending swirling dust and debris flying. Tenda watches silently from behind, her expression unreadable. He unleashes a skill, launching multiple water spears in a rapid volley. The data worm reacts with alarm. Realizing this is their chance to escape, Seiya stands ready, controlling the water with precision, creating a barrier of swirling water and spear attacks to cover their retreat. The water spears slam into the ground, splashing fiercely as Seiya moves with swift agility. He dodges and slides, breaking through the water's surface with sharp footwork. The data worm gasps in shock as Seiya's movements disrupt the water, forcing it to scatter. Seiya spins and slides across the floor, creating a powerful whirlpool of water that sweeps toward the data worm. The creature panics, calling out in surprise. Seiya's focus gaze never wavers as he maneuvers expertly, controlling the water to corner his target. A girl coughs harshly, warning not to destroy the Tenda family. Another figure notes it's rare for Tenda to struggle. She spots the enemy and recognizes it as the white serpent, reacting with shock and disbelief. Seiya urgently tells Tenda to stop, warning her it's dangerous to get too close. He grabs her by the shoulders to restrain her as she rushes forward. Tenda leaps down forcefully, crashing to the ground near the serpent. The serpent, now untied, moves cautiously. The small white serpent acknowledges its freedom, while Tenda questions if she is truly the white serpent. Seiya apologizes profusely, bowing deeply, explaining he attacked without realizing she was Lady White Serpent. Tenda begs for forgiveness, trembling and pleading. The serpent insists it was not hostile, and Tenda expresses her gratitude with surprise and relief. The girl asks the white serpent if it can understand language, and the serpent eagerly nods. She beams with excitement, declaring the legend true. Suddenly embarrassed, she apologizes quietly. She formally introduces herself as Jade, a demonic shrine maiden, while the armored man bows, stating he is Tenda, her guard. Jade asks the serpent again if it understands them, and the serpent nods once more. The girl joyfully proclaims the legend real, startling Seiya. A flashback reveals the village reveres the white serpent as a divine servant, and the serpent understands words. Jade explains that anyone who harms the serpent will be cursed, but the curse falls on those around the offender, not the serpent itself. The serpent processes this with wide eyes. Seiya and Jade bow deeply, with Seiya apologizing and explaining Tenda only tried to protect the serpent. The serpent worries about believing words alone and wonders what to do. Noticing Seiya's many wounds, the serpent considers healing him to gain his trust. The serpent casts a healing skill on Seiya, who is surprised and wonders if the white serpent has forgiven him. The serpent explains that the great healing skill can mend deep wounds over time. Seiya and Tenda express gratitude, and the serpent acknowledges the good call but hints at a higher authority, Master White Serpent. Seiya apologizes, saying the serpent is cured but suggests sealing away the healing skill except for emergencies. He explains that recovery skills are rare and often undervalued, with only a few healers in the major powers. He warns that some have been enslaved and treated like mere recovery potions, urging awareness of the rarity of such skills. The serpent eagerly absorbs this knowledge. The serpent admits limited knowledge about Sadella and decides to ask about the nearby village first. It confirms the horned figures refer to the princess and her guard. The serpent learns the village to the east had about 200 people and lived happily until a slave trader arrived weeks ago. The serpent reacts with shock at the mention of a slave trader. The story continues with a man explaining that the villagers rejected the slave trader's demands for a demon. However, slavers returned with over 100 men and raided the village, overwhelming the demons despite their superior physical abilities. The village was burned down by those who could control fire, leaving no stronghold. The narrator reveals that the three present are survivors of that attack, emphasizing the overwhelming force of the slavers' army of 1,000 men. The survivor declares that all others were killed, vowing to destroy the slave trader one day. The serpent curses the thugs, suspecting a larger organization. The survivor plans to gather friends and rebuild the village, asking for cooperation from other demons. The serpent agrees it's difficult for just 3 people. The serpent decides to inquire more about the slave trader. The man asks if the serpent is a slave trader, then explains slaves are mostly prisoners of war. With no war now, the slave trader has started a new hunt. The serpent reflects on how the traders don't see people as people, calling it a crazy world. The man reveals the slave trader is part of a powerful organization recognized and run by the country, building close ties. The serpent reacts in shock that the country is involved. The man shows a map with 2 kingdoms nearby, Sultana and Garat. The serpent realizes Sadella is in Garrett's kingdom, possibly from another country. Suddenly, a woman calls out to Jade and Tenda, questioning if they are present. The serpent wonders if the army of 1,000 from Tendera village is involved. A man explains he received a scout's call about an adventurer hired by a slave trader nearby. The woman asks if something is wrong, and the man confirms the news. The serpent reacts with surprise, calling out Makoto's name. Jade confirms he has already informed everyone and all that remains is to leave once the princesses are ready. Tanda quietly admits she thought she had finally found a place to relax. Makoto declares he will wipe out any enemy if it's just a few, and Jade states the threat is 200 men. Makoto warns Tanda not to drag everyone into her emotions. Tanda notices that two men don't look much alike, and the serpent clarifies they are brothers. Makoto awkwardly apologizes while trying to identify someone, but the other man denies it. Tanda asks what they should do about the white serpent, prompting surprise from the others. One man questions if it's the real deal, while Jade expresses curiosity but insists their priority is to leave. Tanda cheerfully urges the white serpent to come along, but Makoto warns that the white serpent may have simply stopped here and they can't force it to act. Tanda pleads that the white serpent resembles a white snake and begs for its protection. She enthusiastically tells the white serpent they should go together, but the serpent hesitates, considering how difficult it might be to rescue Satella alone from a slave dealer tied to a powerful gang. The serpent thinks it might be wise to keep up with them for now. Tanda beams with excitement, clasping her hands in anticipation, while the white serpent nods in agreement. She thanks the white serpent warmly, calling it Mr. White Snake, while Makoto nervously calls out to her. Jade announces they are done talking and urges everyone to get going. The group starts to move, with Jade leading and Makoto and Tanda following closely behind. The girl holding the white serpent senses a disturbance, quietly asking if it could be true. The forest stirs with the movement of many people, and the woman notes that everyone is upset despite knowing the reason. A man calls out to the gathered crowd, demanding their attention before departure. He reminds them of the heavy losses suffered in the war but points out the white serpent stands before them. The serpent nods, confirming it understands language and can communicate, though some remain doubtful. The girl encourages the group not to be discouraged, saying the white serpent believes in them and watches over their safety. The man rallies the troops, declaring they will defeat their enemies with their own strength this time. He acknowledges the difficult situation but expresses gratitude for their continued support, bowing respectfully. The man urges everyone to raise their heads and follow him, vowing no one will be left behind on their journey to the former ogre village. The girl, clutching the white serpent, reflects on how much trust the group places in their young general as the forest quiets around them. The girl addresses the white serpent, introducing Jade's mother, Sim, who apologizes for the late introduction. A lizard man with sunglasses steps forward, identifying himself as Tenda's brother, Uchikage. The white serpent wonders if Kage can see Sim, who the princess calls Mother. Sim explains their destination, the former demon village where the demon lives. She promises to explain everything to the white serpent too. The village is described as a thriving place with demons, a great castle, agriculture, commerce, and diplomacy. Sim reassures them that Raiki-sama, famed for building castles, governs the village, allowing her to rest easy. The white serpent contemplates if this is a country ruled by famous heroes. The group expresses hope, aiming to establish a foothold for reconstruction in the Mioni village. The girl smiles, saying a solid village brings hope. Later, the girl sleeps holding the white serpent, who remarks on being used as a dakimakura only after she fell asleep. Nearby, two playful girls complain about their legs hurting from dancing outside, while the others watch amused. Around a campfire, the young general apologizes for the lack of alcohol but appreciates the chance to talk with everyone. Others praise him, noting he's younger but speaks well. The young general humbly credits everyone for protecting Lady White Snake and the princess, thanking them for their vigilance. Another soldier credits the young general's command transmission skill, while he acknowledges detailed instructions from Master Tender. The white serpent realizes Tender and the others can communicate from afar, explaining why no accidents happened along the way. Using infinite water manipulation, the serpent notices the water has vanished and calls out. The group by the campfire is surprised as water suddenly appears in their cups. One man questions the sudden water, and another agrees, astonished. The warrior wonders if the water is from the white serpent. He raises his cup, announcing it's Shinshu, a gift from Lady White Snake. Everyone joins in a toast, grateful for the kindness. They drink around the fire, one asking what the big deal is. The warrior claps his hands, rallying everyone to head to the post. He thanks Lady White Snake for boosting morale. Bowing respectfully, the serpent and a floating hand respond happily. The warrior reflects on how the group recently lost someone important but remain good people. He asks the serpent if they all feel good, smiling warmly. The serpent contemplates the villagers' smiles despite losing their families to a slave trader. The warrior startles the serpent, telling it not to hide its presence, apologizing for the surprise. The serpent explains they laugh to cope with loss and for the sake of a legend possessed by a demon. The serpent explains that when a demon dies, its soul remains with companions for a month. If the living smile during this time, the dead can rest peacefully, but lamenting death causes possession. Possessed demons eventually turn fiendish, which is why they laugh without tears. The warrior acknowledges this grim background. The warrior urges patience until their forces are ready to reclaim the former village of Ogre. Though determined to kill those who took the village, he admits his plan was risky. The serpent notes the warrior's strong feelings and resolves to follow the same path. The warrior hints at one more important thing to share. The warrior reveals that 5 years ago, the princess's father, Odono Temasama, was killed in battle. Upon hearing the news, the princess broke down in tears. Most likely, Lady Tenma possessed the princess out of concern for her well-being, exchanging her lost skills for vast magic and sinister powers. The serpent finds the story more like a legend. The warrior reassures that the princess was so shocked she forgot her father's death. The trigger for her demon transformation was likely Temasama's death. They have been blocking the demon's path for 5 years by matching the story and will not deny the Tenma the warrior sees. Though uncertain when full demonization will occur, they are doing their best. The warrior asks the serpent to take care of the princess, and the serpent agrees, though both it and the warrior carry heavy worries. The warrior announces a patrol around the area, surprising the other who was standing nearby moments ago. The other asks if he's not working today. Noting he hasn't slept since leaving the village, the warrior admits he needs to be more helpful and is the only one with good night vision. The other kneels, saying the white serpent is no longer here, and wonders aloud about the serpent's absence under the night sky. The warrior suddenly stops and looks around cautiously, sensing something. He calls out to Lady White Serpent. Impressed she knew where he was, the serpent emerges from the bushes, warning that enemies are coming after them. The warrior smiles and invites the serpent to accompany him. Moving through the forest, the warrior explains he hunts alone every night to secure food, keeping the secret from others to handle the unexpected. He laughs, saying everyone else is doing their best. The serpent remarks on his apparent disregard for friends, but supports Lady White Serpent from the shadows. Suddenly, the warrior spots a large shadow nearby and urgently asks if it's a monster. The serpent pledges to fight alongside him, while the warrior tells Lady White Serpent to return to Tendera. Confident in his own speed and attack power, the serpent insists it's more than one enemy and offers help. The warrior asks if he can create a diversion so Lady White Serpent can attack, preparing for the imminent confrontation. A massive dinosaur crashes down with a thunderous impact, roaring fiercely as it lands. Lady White Serpent sighs in exasperation at the sight of yet another dinosaur, while the small white snake expresses eager anticipation for the fight ahead. The dinosaur kicks with incredible force, launching the warrior high into the air. The small snake gasps in shock at the creature's strength and flight, urging Lady White Serpent to act quickly. The white snake unleashes a barrage of spear-like projectiles, skillfully attacking the dinosaur. Lady White Serpent watches in stunned disbelief at the overwhelming number and power of the attack. The warrior lands awkwardly, enveloped in a protective bubble of water. He apologizes for the rough landing, while the small snake expresses deep admiration for Lady White Serpent's skill and power. Lady White Serpent expresses that her kindness, concern, generosity, and compassion are deeply ingrained in her body. She confesses that she has worshipped Lady White Serpent from the beginning, not out of respect for the legend, but because of who she truly is. She looks forward to working together from now on. The small white snake responds with a thumbs up, eager to face people like her. The warrior bows respectfully and promises to count on her from now on, sealing their new alliance with a firm fist bump. After traveling for 3 days, the group finally spots their destination. The leader announces they are in sight of the village of the former Oni. The group, including Lady White Serpent, the warrior, and others, quietly approaches the village, preparing for what lies ahead. The group arrives at the village of the former Oni, with the warrior announcing their destination. As they walk through the streets, the woman holding the small white snake notes the surprising number of demons living there, while the others observe the bustling crowd around them. The woman reflects on how flourishing the village is, a stark contrast to the isolated places she has known. The warrior encourages her to rest, sensing her fatigue, while the small white snake marvels at the civilization-like atmosphere, something rarely seen before. They reach a building where the warrior asks permission to greet Mr. Reiki first, apologizing to the white serpent for the detour. The woman reluctantly agrees, urged by the warrior who explains the white snake's insistence. As they enter, the warrior points ahead, signaling their arrival. Their eyes widen in awe at the sight of an impressive, grand castle rising beyond the village gate. The woman and the small white snake share the warrior's amazement, overwhelmed by the scale and majesty of the structure before them. A man named Master Den greets the group warmly, raising his hand in a friendly wave. The small white snake questions the worldview behind their situation, Master Den explains he was working on the farm but noticed the group arriving in poor condition and asks why so many villagers have come along. The warrior reveals their village was attacked, and only a few survived. Master Den insists they report immediately to Mr. Reiki, confirming that Tenda, Sim, and Jade Lizard are with him. Master Den tells them the others will prepare an inn for rest and offers to run ahead and explain their arrival. Telling them to take their time, the warrior, holding the small white snake, apologizes to it, explaining that Den is his father's older brother and a vassal of Mr. Reiki. Master Den hurries off toward the castle gate as the group follows behind. Master Den is seen scolding someone for neglecting work and only doing farm labor, causing hardship for those around him. He acknowledges that the woman in question is better at physical work than thinking but appreciates her for always making arrangements before anything else. The small white snake remarks that Master Den looks like a dependable older brother. The group prepares to move on, crossing a bridge toward the castle. The group is announced as having arrived to a woman who informs them that Mr. Reiki and Mr. Tenda's party has come. The small white snake wonders what kind of brawny giant ogre the rumored lord might be. Inside, an elderly man with a long beard and horns sits at a low table, shaking slightly as he writes. He invites them to enter and tells them to sit down, though he is uncertain if the rumors about him are true. The elderly man with horns invites them to share the full details. Having already heard the outline from Den scoffs at the old man's frail appearance. He explains he was attacked by a slaver recently, revealing only 3 survived: himself, the princess, and her adult husband. The small white snake reacts with shock, calling the attack crazy. The elderly man grimly brushes ink as he recalls the slavers' brutal assault on the village, including the slaughter of women and children. His anger flares as he condemns the inhumanity, though he remains uncertain if all the rumors are true. Suddenly, a powerful pressure emanates from the elderly man, startling everyone. The small white snake notes how he seemed like a frail old tree but now exudes overwhelming strength. The elder asks about the enemy, and Den admits 1,000 men are likely attacking the village. The group is tense and apologetic. The elder advises them to rest and understand the enemy's forces and tactics. Den and another bow deeply in gratitude. The woman holding the white snake is asked if the creature is real, to which she responds with a curious expression. The woman excitedly confirms the legendary white snake's ability to understand and communicate with words. The elderly man greets the snake warmly as Rinsama. The snake is startled to hear its name. The man explains he can see his opponent's name through a special skill and reveals the name Ukinsaku on a scroll. The woman asks if that's correct, and the young man decides to call the elder Master Auron from now on. The elder agrees and says it's fine for them to live in the castle. He laughs heartily, clarifying he won't let them stay for free. He invites them to rest and mentions a detailed meeting tomorrow, adding he has prepared a bath for them. The group happily approaches the bathhouse, with the woman eager to take a bath after a long time. The snake and others follow. But the snake suddenly notices something and reacts nervously. The woman questions where the snake came from as the others enter the bathhouse. The armored man asks the snake if it is male, but the woman quickly defends the snake's gender, explaining it is a snake and gender doesn't apply. The snake protests, claiming it was a human man in a past life. The woman suddenly shouts she wants to take a bath with Master Auron, then urges her mother to hurry inside, confident they will win if they enter first. The snake panics, darting away and shouting that it is a traitor, while the young man apologizes nervously. Meanwhile, the woman and her mother relax in the bath, the woman happily remarking how good it feels after such a long time. She asks Master Auron if he feels good too, dipping her foot into the water. The snake soaks in a wooden bucket, declaring that baths really are the best. The woman notes this is her first bath in this life and how it seeps into her very core. The snake warns to be careful not to boil snakes, as they are warm animals. The woman questions if it's okay to use a bucket, but the young man invites her to join him in the bath. The snake thrashes in the bucket, insisting it will drown and that it's mentally impossible to enjoy this. The woman tells it she doesn't like it, and the snake admits it might have to give up. It explains that the food from ogres on the way here is so rich in experience that it can already evolve. The woman recalls putting the evolution on hold to avoid causing a huge commotion if it changed form. A flashback shows the group feeding the snake, with the woman asking about the next evolution. Destination. A text panel explains the legend of the foresnake, a giant forest snake that rarely appears and brings misfortune if captured. Said to be a phantom snake that must never be touched. The snake reacts nervously, acknowledging the seriousness. The woman declares she will evolve while she still can before dinner, and the snake's voice is shown evolving. Suddenly, a bright light flashes, startling the woman. The woman cries out in shock, calling out to Auron-sama as a blinding light surrounds them both. The young man shields his eyes, overwhelmed by the brightness. The snake bursts through the light with a triumphant shout, declaring its evolution complete. Silence falls as the woman and the young man sit in the hot spring, staring in disbelief at the snake now resting beside the pool. Their eyes widen in shock as they realize Auron-sama has grown significantly larger. A week after arriving at the former demon village, the snake devours a large fish with gusto. The woman asks if the food is to his liking, and he thanks her for the always delicious meal. The snake looks around the empty room, noting they are in the middle of nowhere and finally settled. The snake expresses gratitude for the meal that helped them reach W5, but reflects on how his race trait causes his experience points to decrease compared to others. He shows his stats, admitting his growth is good, but he can't gain any skills or resistances. The snake recalls the strange voice of Sora in the bath. Feeling uneasy, he worries about what he detected during his evolution, confused by the inability to record enough mass, words, or good deeds. When asked about detection, he clarifies it means looking at microcompositions to find things, though he struggles to explain further. The young man returns home and greets the snake, who reacts with surprise. Master Auron thanks the young man for his hard work and asks if he has any news. The young man apologizes for the surprise but reports they discovered comrades thought dead at the Garot National Mine, revealing a significant development. Master Auron praises the young man as a survivor, expressing relief and gratitude. The young man, overwhelmed, admits barely escaping the village alive and struggling to confirm who is truly alive or dead. The snake quietly acknowledges the situation, noting that not everything is resolved yet. The elderly man reflects on the gravity of the situation, acknowledging that things might be more serious than expected. The young man explains he tracked the slavers alone, thanks to Reiki-sama sheltering everyone for the past week. Master Auron insists they must learn the enemy's details, preparing for a possible attack on their village. The snake silently agrees, revealing his own intense feelings. A woman rushes in, interrupting urgently to report that the slave trader is waiting at the castle gate for an audience with Sir Reiki. The snake and the young man react with shock, while Master Auron remains composed but alert. The woman requests passage, which Master Auron grants. The young man asks Auron to stay with them just in case, to which the snake reacts with surprise. The snake calls out to Master Auron, who listens intently as the young man insists on the need for caution despite the confusing and pointless nature of the situation. A hand pulls back a hanging scroll, revealing a narrow hidden passage. The snake-like creature reacts with surprise. The man admits impatience, expecting to confront a woman directly, but he didn't realize such a secret mechanism existed, reflecting on the constant wariness against conflict. A rugged man carrying a large weapon complains about the weight, demanding attention. A woman and a ninja try to calm him. He questions the absence of a chair, only to find a cushion instead, grumbling about the lack of proper seating. The man is offered tea as a guest, but he remains cold and sulky. The older man with a long beard comments that they are only treated well by those above them, lamenting cultural differences. The visitor's frustration grows as he demands to know the purpose of the meeting. The man cuts to the chase, declaring he's here to take slaves from the village. The snake-like creature and the older man exchange tense looks. The man bluntly demands all the slaves, warning they can be criminals if they refuse. The man with sunglasses lashes out fiercely, calling them bastards, but the older man calmly blocks the attack. He firmly refuses, stating there is no benefit for them and insists on saying no despite the pressure. The rugged men smirk and question if he's sure, but the older man remains resolute. The two rough men decide to leave, warning he'll regret this choice, while one calls for going home. Meanwhile, a woman nervously approaches Mr. Reiki, explaining the strange feeling she senses isn't normal and asks what to do. The older man slams his hand down, declaring an emergency meeting with Tenda and Sim. The older man questions if the merchants were the same person as the slave trader who came to the village. The younger man confirms it, though the merchants themselves were not the same. He then asks how many days after the slave trader's arrival the attack happened. The woman answers it was 3 days, prompting the older man to order preparations within a day. The younger man questions why so soon. A map reveals the main city closest to the village is the capital of the Kingdom of Yahello, a 10-day round trip away. The older man explains that attacking the village in 3 days must involve some trick, as it normally takes 10 days to travel back and forth. Soldiers lurked near the village, indicating the attacker knew the answer. The younger man asks why they don't call for backup from another country or nearby village, but the older man says it's pointless since even sending a messenger now won't get help by tomorrow evening. The younger man asks what the plan is, and the elder replies he will first notify everyone in the village. The elder instructs them to prepare for the enemy's attack, gather at the castle by morning, and move carefully to avoid revealing their preparations. The younger man suggests preparing for war first, emphasizing that protecting the people is the top priority. The elder's back is shown as the younger man praises him warmly. The elder reveals that a survivor from the village has been found enslaved in the Gallo Kingdom, based on a report from their lizard scout. Shock ripples through the group. The elder warns that rushing to rescue him could trigger a full-scale war if the kingdom of Garrot is behind the attack. He asks for patience until the situation settles, acknowledging the urgency but urging caution. A man with sunglasses admits he wants to help immediately but understands the need to wait. The man with sunglasses stresses that their top priority is dealing with the crisis affecting their indebted friends. He warns that if they abandon the former ogre village to save others, those left behind will be angry. The younger man agrees, laughing that their friend would only get hurt and sent home if they rushed in. The elder smiles quietly, acknowledging their strength as warriors. The group, including the elder, the younger man, the woman, and the man with sunglasses, all shout in unison to begin their preparations immediately, their determination filling the room as they rise to action. Tenda and Reiki repeatedly devise a plan to deploy soldiers, focusing on the castle and town people. Sim and Jade work with the women to prepare more provisions, while another quietly fills every well in the castle with water as the sun sets. Dawn breaks over the castle as the next day arrives, with a large force of armored soldiers assembled, their spears raised beneath a flag bearing a sun emblem. The soldiers stand ready in formation, the sun climbing higher in the sky, signaling the start of their mission with a sharp call to action. Inside, a horned elder watches anxiously, surprised by how quickly events are unfolding, while a snake-like creature panics, realizing they might be in serious trouble. The elder and the younger man gaze over a fortified town from above, the younger wondering how many people live there. The elder estimates about 7,000 at a glance, while a knight nearby claims to be about 2,000 years old. The elder acknowledges the difficulty ahead, explaining the castle's defenses extend beyond the visible gate, with bracers stationed at seemingly unnecessary points to maintain flexibility. He warns that without caution, they risk being caught in a pincer attack. The younger woman admires the enemy's flag, noting its beauty despite being an adversary, and identifies the supreme commander as the third prince of the kingdom of Garrot. The snake-like companion is surprised by the younger's sharp eyesight. The woman recalls rumors labeling the third prince a failure, but dismisses them as unreliable. The younger man apologizes for assuming they were good neighbors despite little interaction. Now realizing the clear link between Garrot and the slave trader, the elder grips his staff firmly, stating they will hold the siege as planned, puzzled by the enemy's lack of movement but relieved by the convenience it brings. A man wearing sunglasses forcefully pins down a desperate prisoner, demanding to know what he's doing. The prisoner is identified as the slave trader from yesterday. Now captured after wandering suspiciously, an elder man calmly orders the restraint to stop, noting the other captor couldn't hold back. The prisoner pleads that he is now a messenger from the Gallo Kingdom and warns that killing him would cause problems. The elder muses that although he knows the man is a messenger, he doubts the prisoner could have mobilized so many soldiers. The prisoner boldly declares his intent to destroy the village and questions why the soldiers of the kingdom of Garrot are attacking. The prisoner insists the king of Garrot is involved, rejecting any tricks and demanding release. The elder replies that if the king is involved, there's no reason to let him live. A woman with short hair and fur-lined armor sharply commands the prisoner to be silent. Startling the man holding him, the snake-like companion echoes the gravity of the king's involvement. The woman channels energy, summoning a powerful force that causes the floor to crack and tremble beneath her. She shouts a battle cry as the energy intensifies, the snake coiling nearby in response. The prisoner is thrown violently to the ground by the overwhelming power. The prisoner frantically begs for mercy, promising to reveal everything if spared. The elder demands answers quickly, warning he might accidentally kill him otherwise. The prisoner explains that although they haven't attacked yet, the buildings are already vibrating. He reveals that slavers from the kingdom of Garrot have always been cheap labor suppliers for them, implying a deeper conspiracy behind the attack. The prisoner is forced to admit the kingdom approved the slave hunters from Garrot, though not publicly. He explains the usual covert hand moves to stir unrest, exploiting a rebellious power within the country to unsettle the people. The captors discuss how setting a target for this volatile national sentiment triggers action from the populace. The prisoner winces, recalling how small the country was. The elder states that soldiers arrived immediately, and the prisoner admits he only spared the target because he was persuaded. Otherwise, he would have crushed him outright. The prisoner clenches his fist, lamenting the selfishness behind these actions. The woman with the snake lashes out, furious, demanding how many villages have been destroyed. She scolds the prisoner for starting a war without trusting others' words. The prisoner panics, begging for release and claiming he's told everything. The woman advances with overwhelming force, warning she promised to send him home safely but never guaranteed his life. The ground trembles violently beneath her as she approaches, the snake coiling in anticipation. The elder coldly states that if they are lucky, they might escape alive. Suddenly, The woman lunges forward at incredible speed toward the prisoner, who reacts with terror. A nearby woman watches with wide eyes, while the prisoner's desperate cries fill the air. The young fighter declares the territory theirs as he strikes with a powerful skill. Kongo Riki Arm Kongokan, smashing through his opponent's defense. The demon calmly remarks that sending him home this way is a very polite gesture, while the defeated enemy's shocked expression reveals his fear. The young fighter's punch sends the enemy flying with brutal force, crashing through the castle walls and tumbling far outside. The impact leaves the enemy bleeding and stunned, unable to recover from the devastating blow. The elder demon warns the human not to underestimate a demon, emphasizing the grudge held by the entire village, fueling the young fighter's strength. The sheer force behind the punch sends the enemy flying hundreds of meters, leaving destruction in its wake. Hours later, a woman approaches Sir Reiki to confirm details about the war, mentioning emissaries from the third prince. Sir Reiki responds with a knowing smile, telling her she has never learned her lesson and agrees to proceed. Meanwhile, a snake-like messenger panics over a new incoming messenger, regretting having killed the previous one and unable to reveal the information. 3 armored knights enter a room where several others are already seated in formal rows, awaiting their presence. The atmosphere is tense but orderly as the newcomers prepare to address the group. One knight steps forward, bowing respectfully and introducing himself as Jernia Arold, a direct vassal of the third prince of the kingdom of Garrot. Another knight named Targ Orkos also introduces himself, while a cloaked figure remains silent. A snake-like observer notes the presence of a proper messenger this time, remarking on her knightly appearance. The lord of the demon village, Reiki, asserts his identity and questions the newcomer's intentions. The knight nervously insists they have no plans to attack, but Reiki doubts this, recalling the earlier messenger was a slave trader. The revelation shocks the knights and the snake, who wonders how much information has been hidden from a direct vassal. The knights acknowledge the truth behind Reiki's suspicions, realizing why the first messenger's face was unrecognizable. They recount how the slave trader had demanded slaves, and after refusal, returned as an official emissary. Reiki explains their rude response was deliberate, choosing to treat the emissaries with utmost courtesy despite the provocation. The knight swallows nervously and concedes understanding. The elder lord acknowledges that they summoned the knights because they had information about their forces moving toward the village. He accuses them of gathering troops and preparing for war. The knight demands to know how they knew war wasn't declared, but the lord explains it's because those present have experienced being destroyed by slavers in the same way. The 2 armored men sit calmly, flames flickering around them, as the lord warns that with such a precedent, it's easy to deal with them. The knight admits they don't know why they're not supposed to attack. The lord points out their full force is only 200, while the enemy has 700, making an attack on the castle impossible. The knight agrees reluctantly. The snake questions if the troops were sent without checking enemy strength, worried their country might not even realize it's involved in the slave hunt. The cloaked figure challenges the lord, saying if the disrespect is true, why not pay with his head? The lord replies that even as vassals of the prince, it's too late to settle with just a head. To end the war, they need the head of one of the supreme commanders. The cloaked figure accepts the challenge, claiming there's no one better suited for the job than himself. The lord looks on with interest, and the snake watches closely. A young man steps forward, apologizing for the delay and introducing himself as Athletic Kalalit, the third prince of the kingdom of Garrot. His sudden appearance shocks the knights, the lord, and the snake alike. Athletic Kalalit solemnly presents a brooch, commanding, "Take this." The snake reacts in shock, questioning what the brooch is. The elder lord examines it thoughtfully, recognizing it as the emblem exclusive to royalty. The snake realizes this confirms the prince's identity is genuine. The prince and his armored companion enter the room. While the elder lord contemplates the situation, the prince insists he is not a fraud but truly royalty from another world. The elder lord acknowledges him as the third prince and asks his purpose. The prince declares his intent to end the war with his own head. The cloaked figure reacts with disbelief, demanding why he wouldn't pay with his head if the disrespect was real. The snake notes the prince sounds like he already accepts fault. The prince reveals he knew about the slavers and their fault days ago. The knights express shock and disbelief, questioning if they are being deceived. One confirms he verified with the king, affirming the truth. The knights anxiously ask what the king said, while the snake suspects the prince is involved with the slave trader and notes the vassal's suspicious behavior. A shadowed figure demands if there is a problem and orders to hurry and dispatch troops. The armored knight freezes, shocked, dropping his helmet. The snake questions how the knight knows this, recalling the slave trader's words. The prince admits he tried to decline the war, but the king took his wife and child hostage, forcing his hand. He struggles under the weight of the threat, while the armored knight remains bowed in despair. The snake worries that if a hostage is taken, troops will surely be sent. The prince reflects that he avoided attacking because he didn't want to hurt innocent people and wants to protect his family. He acknowledges this is a selfish idea. The prince kneels, offering his own head if his selfish wish can be granted. The armored knight reacts with shock and sweat, while the elder lord remains silent, contemplating the prince's words. The white snake recalls living peacefully in Japan, terrified by the thought of a human dying before it. It reflects on the Sengoku period, where taking responsibility meant committing seppuku, and wonders if giving up one's life is truly the right way to take responsibility. Now transformed into a white snake, it convinces itself that being selfish is acceptable. The snake questions if these corrupt kingdoms need serious people like the prince now, while noting the prince's straightforwardness. An elder man agrees that the prince's death would end the war and offers to personally deliver the final blow as the castellan of the former Oni village. The prince, shocked and desperate, pleads silently for someone to stop the elder. The prince and his knights fall silent, overwhelmed and desperate. Realizing no one is present to intervene, the white snake panics, realizing the absence of help. The elder demands the prince, Chaki, to speak if he has anything left to say, but the prince refuses. The white snake resolves to stop the elder's plan. While the elder grips his sword tightly, the snake urges the elder to calm down out of respect for the white serpent. But tension rises as the elder's grip tightens. The elder grips his sword tightly, the white snake coiled around him as he prepares to strike. The snake marvels at the incredible physical strength of demons, its eyes wide with awe and tension rising. The elder lashes out with a sharp rebuke, calling someone an idiot. The prince and the snake both react with shock and fear, sweat beading on their faces. The elder's fist crashes into the prince's face with brutal force, silencing him instantly. Two knights recoil in horror, their faces frozen in disbelief and panic. The elder roars passionately, urging the prince not to throw away his life so lightly. He insists that a ruler must believe in his people and vassals, demanding the prince not betray himself. The prince, stunned and conflicted, covers his mouth in shock as the elder's words hang heavy in the air. The snake notes surprise at seeing the elder so angry, acknowledging his care for his people and soldiers. The young man yells, desperate, asking what they should do, torn between losing family and wasting blood. The snake admits understanding what the elder and athlete are thinking but laments the lack of a clear solution. He wishes he could use his reincarnating power to gain perfect knowledge. The elder and athlete cheer happily, but the snake calls out for ideas, only to be met with silence. The elder prepares to leave, saying he'll visit again before the young man wakes. Two knights rush forward, shouting for him to stop, but the elder blocks their way firmly. The young man insists he can't let the lady be hurt any further, but the elder tells them to get out of his way. The young man protests, but the hooded figure calms him, telling the knights to step aside. The hooded figure admits to betraying their trust and feels unworthy of their protection. One knight loudly accepts responsibility for the situation but insists it's a different matter. Both knights shout their loyalty to Athelsama, pleading for reconsideration. The young man looks on silently, overwhelmed by their passionate declarations. The elder questions the young man's loyalty despite knowing the truth, asking if he won't answer his vassal's call. The young man recalls having a trustworthy vassal, Jernia Arold, who can calmly guide him anytime. His thoughts reveal that when he's depressed, Targ Orkos always cheers him up. The elder's expression softens as the young man reflects on the support he has from those around him. The young man apologizes for rushing to conclusions without considering others' feelings, relieved to have such a loyal vassal nearby. He expresses gratitude for no blood being wasted. The armored man is moved, and the elder stands calmly with the white serpent coiled at his feet. The young man sincerely apologizes to Mr. Reiki for his selfishness and requests to discuss the future again. The elder acknowledges this as his goal all along and thanks him. The white serpent sips tea, signaling a calmer atmosphere as the group sits formally in the room. The elder shifts to business, revealing that the young man's vassal families have likely been captured as hostages. The young man reacts with shock and guilt for involving them. His companions reassure him it's not his fault, but the tension remains heavy. The white serpent worries about the devastating consequences if the young man uses his sealed skills. The elder laughs heartily, telling the young man not to look so pained. Noticing his surprise, the elder confidently declares there is one option left for agriculture, hinting at a potential solution ahead. The battlefield is chaotic, with soldiers scattered and falling everywhere. A knight suddenly notices the carnage and reacts in shock as more soldiers collapse around him. The knight struggles to understand why they are losing despite their numerical advantage. He receives a message that their army has suffered severe damage. While the enemy remains unharmed, Realization dawns that this is the terrifying power of the demon race. Nearby, a muscular man mocks the defeated knights, telling them not to get depressed and that this isn't even a warm-up. He confidently asks if they will still entertain them, surrounded by his comrades and the fallen soldiers. The muscular man charges forward, landing a powerful punch on a knight who cries out in pain. Two others sit on a bench, observing the fight. One comments on how easy it is to break a thick tree like that. The knight reels from the assault as the battlefield continues to erupt in chaos. A powerful warrior spins rapidly, flinging soldiers aside with terrifying ease, his physical prowess overwhelming. The weight of armor and soldiers totals about 100 kilograms. Yet he handles it effortlessly. Nearby, a man watches in disbelief as armored soldiers face off against a strange snake-like creature surrounded by floating water blobs. He exclaims in shock at the bizarre sight. The snake-like creature, known as Master Auron, manipulates water with incredible skill, causing armored soldiers to be thrown back by water attacks. Observers note that the ability to communicate with anything and control water so easily is astonishing, as even making water float would be difficult. Two men sit quietly, contemplating the battlefield strewn with fallen soldiers. One worries if the water will all transform into blades, while the other reflects on the rapid development of their plan. Attributing it to experience, they acknowledge that this is likely why they can discuss matters so calmly despite the chaos. An elder declares boldly that they will have a fake war, a mock battle without weapons, to prevent needless bloodshed among soldiers and civilians. The younger man explains that this conditional mock battle is already underway, showing troops engaged in combat without lethal force. The elder admits that staging a fake war is a daring strategy, but it spares lives and suffering. Scattered, scarred, and dirty armor pieces lie as proof of a battle fought, ensuring hostages will no longer be harmed. A burned village and fallen innocent soldiers raise the stakes. If nothing is done, families will be slaughtered. Despite the weight of it all, the young man acknowledges that a single plan has solved all his worries. A man reflects on his naivety, admitting he expected the former Oni village to surrender due to their troop numbers. But the presence of an irregular force, known as the demon's combat prowess and intellect, changed everything. He praises the army's strength and wonders if the people train daily, impressed by their skill and endurance. The young man admits he hasn't trained at all, explaining the people merely like to move their bodies. The elder reminds him of the true meaning behind the fake war, pressing that the real goal is to use the staged conflict as a chance to defeat the king from within. The young man acknowledges this with a tense grip on his weapon. The plan is laid out clearly. 7,000 soldiers will be sent to the former Oni village, with 4,000 villagers remaining as war dead and prisoners. 3,000 defeated soldiers will return to their kingdom disguised. The remaining 4,000 soldiers will stay in the former demon village for 10 days to maintain appearances and food supplies. The elder warns that without casualties and prisoners, suspicion of defeat would arise, urging swift action against the king before evidence of injustice disappears. The young man nervously agrees, understanding the gravity of the deadline. The elder announces the fake war is over and orders the lizard men to rest. A young man sits quietly, catching his breath. The serpent remarks it has been a while since it exercised and feels better. The young man suddenly runs toward the serpent, calling out to Ofin-sama, who responds with surprise. The young man walks alongside the serpent, who praises his efforts with the water during the fake war but admits he is no match for Tenda's swordsmanship. The young man notices Athel-sama sitting alone and asks what he is doing by himself. Athel-sama admits he was just thinking, and the serpent encourages him to share his thoughts, noting that sometimes other people's opinions help. Athel-sama hesitates but then asks if he may speak. He confesses he lacks the confidence to overthrow the royal rule of Galat. He reflects on living his whole life being swept away, recalling how his father and brother scorned him as a coward for overthinking and not taking action. Athel-sama explains he thought it best to focus on the next best option, but the kingdom's decisions led to low-quality merchants worsening people's lives and depletion of land and resources. He admits he is a coward who has never acted against misgovernment, and that this is the first time he has ever admonished his father. The king angrily accuses him of wanting to attack and destroy the kingdom based on false information spread by slavers about the former demon village attacking. Athel-sama stands conflicted, overwhelmed by the accusations and the weight of his position. The king questions if there is a problem, insisting that pretending ignorance allows them to defeat enemy forces and ease the people's worries, showcasing their army's strength. The young man admits he couldn't accomplish anything or even express his own will and fears dragging his father down with him. He resolves to act on his own free will this time, aware of the heavy pressure it brings. The serpent remarks that he has never been able to move on by himself before. The serpent questions if the higher-ups besides Athel are truly fulfilling their duties, explaining the natural cycle of making the land richer, then the people richer, leading to more crops and more taxes. It notes only a few unfortunate people remain around Athel, The serpent suggests stealing a bike to start moving forward. The young man reflects on his youth, lacking enough memories of his past life to comment, and acknowledges the difficulty in standing up to a powerful opponent, especially when he becomes king. The man in traditional clothing tells Athel he is currently the only one who can stand up to him. He warns that if the situation doesn't change, another war may erupt and the former ogre village will be attacked again. The serpent notes that Athel was lucky not to bleed this time. The man asks Athel, addressed as Mr. Tender, to take the throne and correct the Gallo kingdom as he sees fit. The man encourages Athel, saying that although he lacks confidence, from their perspective he is fully qualified to be king. Athel quietly acknowledges he will try to find confidence. The man cheers him on, declaring he won't run away or give up, emphasizing moving forward one step at a time with that mindset. The young man apologizes, calling himself a mere demon, but the serpent thanks him, saying those words gave it determination. He reflects on how if the king changes, the slave hunting problem will ease, allowing them to rest easy. The young man then asks with a bright smile if the serpent will help too, prompting a surprised reaction. The young man enthusiastically offers his help, praising the king-to-be's guts and promising support. The serpent admits surprise at how quickly he switched gears but prefers this to being a burden. The thought arises that if the young man becomes king, rescuing Sadella and Garrot will be much easier. They shake hands, the young man expressing reassurance and gratitude. The next day, the young man, clad in armor and cape, rallies a large army before a village, shouting that they are all going home. The soldiers stand ready, and the group, including the serpent, prepares to move forward. The young man announces that Tendasama and Uchikage-sama Aran-sama will accompany them from the former Oni village, urging everyone to behave. With a confident shout, he declares their infiltration of the kingdom of Garrot has finally begun, as the group sets off together. A group of armored soldiers marches along a forest path, pulling a cart filled with large sacks. The snake-like creature inside the cart reflects on feeling like a calf being sold, resigned to its size, making escape impossible. The snake admires Tender and the others for their efforts, recalling how Tender fussed until midnight the previous night. A man in traditional clothing sternly warns the snake to be careful with its words, revealing himself as Master Auron. The scene shifts to a nighttime gathering where the man announces that Tanda will join them starting tomorrow. The group erupts in lively banter as one man questions if another is drinking, while the leader encourages everyone to drink or sing until late to rally their spirits. The snake feels sympathy for the exhausted Garrot soldiers trudging through the forest. Under the moonlit sky, the group sits around a campfire as the young man in armor thanks the others for their time and asks pointedly if the kingdom of Garrot sent 1,000 men to their village. The man with a bandage on his face admits he lacks that information but warns that moving 1,000 times would make it obvious. The young man asks what kind of person Lord Athel's father and brother are. The other reflects that his father used to be a wonderful man who protected mine management since his uncle's generation and did everything possible for his country. Yet now, the country's taxes are squandered on luxury, with the ruling family living in excess and doing no work. The snake is surprised, having expected a worse father. The conversation reveals that Lord Athel had 2 brothers. The eldest, Rad, who aims to become king and acts as he pleases, and the second son, Balto, who is sickly but reliable. A chart shows the kingdom's executives, marking Rad as problematic but the others as decent. The snake feels relieved knowing there are some decent people in the kingdom. The young man worries that Sir Athel and Sir Balto must be struggling, but the other assures him that the most difficult are the vassals, and if all vassals are on good terms, things go smoothly. He adds that the lord of the castle, Mr. Reiki, is adored by the people. The young man beams with pride, declaring it's because of Shunjo no Reiki, surprising the other. The young man confirms that Shunjo's Reiki was active in the Revolutionary War 30 years ago, sparking the snake's curiosity. He learns that Reiki died in battle, but the lord lied about his death and retired. Likely disgusted by the war, the castle, built by a mercenary general during that war, was said to be impregnable. The scene ends with a quiet acknowledgement that the requests to build the castle never ceased during the war. The young man turns as the snake nudges him, asking if he wants to hear about the Revolutionary War. He nods, and the young man explains that the war was fought between humans and demi-humans. The snake recalls that demi-humans, like Elena, are creatures in human form but not truly human. A girl in chains confidently states that she knows this well. The young man describes how humans once persecuted demi-humans, enslaving them in some nations. The snake reflects on the terrible past, while the young man explains that the demi-humans would not remain silent forever. This resistance sparked the beginning of the Revolutionary War. The young man continues, saying many demi-humans excelled physically, while humans specialized in magic. The war has lasted 5 years with Mr. Reiki stationed there. He proudly recounts how they built a key castle that, with just 100 men, held off 10,000 troops until reinforcements arrived. The snake is amazed that Reiki has been famous for 30 years, comparing him to a legendary figure from another world. The young man reveals the demi-human army won the war, leading to a written declaration promising no more persecution and a world where demi-humans could live freely. The young man admits he never expected to see someone praying for such luck. The snake is shocked to learn Reiki avoids discussing the past, making it a legend. The young man asks Lord Athel if he is truly ready to fight his own family, leaving the Lord silent and surprised. The young man nods firmly, responding with determination. The other figure remains silent, watching him closely. The young man explains that he seeks cooperation, emphasizing the importance of their help. The other finally agrees, expressing relief and readiness to assist. The snake remarks that it seems the athlete has had her fill, signaling a shift in mood. 3 days later, the massive gates of a fortified city rise, marking the passage of time. The imposing walls and emblem of the kingdom loom as the gates begin to open, welcoming those who approach. The group arrives at the capital of Garrot. A soldier orders the gates opened, while another praises the prince's efforts and prepares for what lies ahead. A nervous soldier apologizes to Mr. Oren for making him stand out, while the snake comments on the ongoing Blackbeard crisis. The fortified city spreads wide beneath the sky, its orderly streets and clustered houses enclosed by high walls. Soldiers march steadily through the cobblestone roads, their armor clinking as they move past the quiet town, where a few townsfolk walk calmly along the streets. Inside a barrel, a snake-like creature stirs restlessly, drawing a knight's caution to keep it subdued. Outside, the city feels strangely lifeless despite its size, with people dressed uniformly and the streets almost empty. The imposing Garrot castle looms in the distance, its grand architecture unlike anything seen before. The armored knight points toward the distant Garrot state mine, explaining its significance as the home of the lizardmen and allies of Tenda. The snake reflects on the need to stay vigilant, while the knight admits he was supposed to rescue someone immediately, but acknowledges the hard work of their comrades. The knights salute Lord Athel, praising his efforts and ordering the soldiers to rest. Athel prepares to return to the castle to report to the king, while the snake remarks that the true battle is just beginning and wishes him luck as they watch him depart. They are instructed to stay at Sir Zernia's house, with Sir Athel ordering them to remain on standby. The snake insists it must find Sedella on its own but promises to stay hidden and move cautiously. Inside the mansion, a man advises not to worry about the residents and urges the purchase of the property. He explains that when a demon acts hostile, it confuses the people and nobles. Influenced by Sir Athel's growing power, the man asks Leighton to spread a rumor and ensure everyone is informed, hinting at a subtle plan. 2 rumors are outlined. One claims the ogres in the former ogre village were strong yet helpless, and the other falsely states that if demons attack the kingdom of Garrot, they will surely lose. The goal is to deepen the people's anxiety. The man acknowledges the first rumor's truth but denies the second, then urges support for Athel Sama, who is already fighting. The other man responds with determination to join the fight. At Garrot Castle, the king sits on his throne, appearing contemplative. A wounded man stands before him, tense and sweating, while a guard watches silently from the side. The night sky looms over the imposing castle as the scene sets a somber, tense atmosphere. Sir Athel reports their return from the battlefield to the king of the kingdom of Reincarnated, who acknowledges his arrival but demands details. Having heard that Athel is not doing well, Athel internally confirms the defeat and that the fake war remains undiscovered, admitting their loss. The king's eldest son, Lud, berates Athel harshly for losing so many troops after sending 7,000 to a seemingly insignificant village. Athel states only about 3,000 soldiers have returned. The king questions why Athel didn't wait for provisions to run out before retreating, while Lud fumes in frustration. Athel explains that the war was commanded by the royal family to demonstrate Garrot Kingdom's power to others, and that their loss was inevitable. The enemy is a demon with extraordinary physical strength, capable of hurling human-sized rocks 5 kilometers from the castle to their headquarters. Lud reacts in disbelief at the distance. Athel adds that the rocks prevented their forces from approaching the castle carelessly, so he deployed archers for a long-range battle. Despite this, the enemy's power was enough to annihilate entire squads, and even if soldiers got close, they couldn't win in close combat. Athel admits they retreated before total annihilation. The king finally tells Athel to rest, while Lud looks on, sweating nervously. He exhales deeply, lowering his head in relief as the heavy doors close behind him. Despite the momentary respite, he reminds himself it's too soon to relax. His thoughts turn to the safety of his family and his vassals' kin, hoping they remain unharmed for now. Hours earlier, a large snake devours a massive piece of meat. While a smaller creature expresses concern about the snake's size, the snake's evolution potential is discussed, with excitement over its ability to grow and develop new powers. The snake's stats and skills flash on screen, revealing impressive attributes and a long list of attack techniques. A man wearing sunglasses appears, Greeting the smaller creature with a casual apology for the surprise, he acknowledges the snake's size and the intimidating nature of its skills. The man, now seated, notices the smaller creature has suddenly shrunk and checks if it's all right. The smaller creature suggests using an assassin skill to search for a thief, explaining how mudmen can be created and controlled for faster movement. The man reflects on his resistance level and the possibility of acquiring new skills, while the smaller creature prepares to explain a new skill and investigate further. New skills gained in this project are explained. Shockwave vibrates air to strike opponents, bypassing armor. Bone wave sends a shockwave to destroy bones. Internal disturbance wave disrupts internal organs without affecting armor. These combine into Haken, tripling all shockwave attacks. The narrator recalls having skills like Rock Breaker, which releases sediment and crushed rock in a burst. The small creature comments that the situation has only worsened. Additional skills include Air Compression Barrier, which compresses air to create a barrier with durability based on MP usage. Defense Penetrating, which invalidates attacks if the opponent's defense is overwhelmingly superior. Air Compression, releasing compressed air like an explosion, and Kill Absorption, restoring stamina by killing enemies. The narrator worries these skills are useless in the city and wonders what will happen next. While the small creature notes they are dangerous together, a figure runs down a hallway. A knight informs a man named Athel that Brother Balto is calling for him. Athel approaches a door, announces himself, and is handed something by a guard. Athel opens the door and demands if he was called. A young man sitting in the dark room welcomes him as Liar Athel. The young man is introduced as Balto Coolette, second son of King Reigned and brother of Athel. Balto asks if Athel is feeling all right, denying the accusation, while Athel wonders why the room is darkened. Balto quietly declares he came to speak with Athel, signaling for silence as he lights a candle. Athel stiffens, surprised by the caution. Balto reassures him that he has already cleared the room and is using skills, showing his wariness. Athel suspects Balto's words to their father are lies. Balto smiles and repeats Athel's name, confirming the tension between them. Athel reacts sharply when Balto claims to have asked the soldiers fighting alongside him about the battle. The soldiers nervously admit demons were strong, or they were simply beaten back without understanding the situation. Balto points out Athel was the only one who reported the details to their father. Athel shrugs off the criticism, saying only those in charge truly understand the overall situation. Balto mentions meeting with Targ, who shared the same opinion about the battle's outcome. A frustrated man nearby complains about the strength of the demons despite being commanded alongside Athel. Balto's gaze sharpens as he asks Athel what he is really planning. Athel, overwhelmed, admits defeat and struggles to respond. He reflects on the shocking alliance between their father and a slave trader. Realizing the betrayal, Athel asks if Balto will believe him, and Balto affirms he will. They acknowledge they have been treated differently so far. Balto concludes that given the current state of the Gallo Kingdom, people would trust Athel more than their father, hinting at the kingdom's instability and fractured loyalties. Balto gratefully accepts the request for help with the rebellion. The other figure asks if he will assist, but Balto is told no one can keep up with the king. The king himself remarks that there are already rebels and that athletes are better suited for the task. Balto reflects that his older brother sits on the throne, but a sickly king is not good for the kingdom. A map shows the capital of Garat divided into sectors. All clear so far. A snake named Daimon reports it has been 3 days without new information. Balto, restless, admits he can't sleep because Athel is fighting hard in the castle. The snake asks Lady Gilnea to rest. Noting she hasn't slept in 3 days, Balto laughs nervously, claiming he's in good shape despite the stress. Balto studies documents while Daimon reports catching more slave hunters that Gilnea and Leighton were pursuing. Balto wonders if he can find any information on Sadella. A knight orders Balto to form a unit and chase after fleeing slave traders. But Balto is frustrated, repeating the same commands for 3 days with no results. Daimon notes the holding cells are already full. He sighs, exhausted, while Daimon wishes Lady Gilnea good luck. The snake decides to search near the castle that night. Suddenly, a group of mudman assassins is detected, and Balto orders them to be recorded, signaling the start of a new search. The snake angrily scolds the other for stopping during the search, frustrated by the shared vision with the thief. A cloaked figure cautiously peers around a corner. Alert! The snake declares it has found the right man. The snake, now wearing a detective hat and pipe, calls the situation a pursuit. The cloaked figure apologizes for being late, while the snake accuses him of making it feel like a secret meeting of bad people. The snake struggles to observe from the front and slips through a small opening. Wondering where the man is, they approach a normal house, entering quietly. Inside, the snake warns the cloaked man that they are moving too much. The man sits with arms crossed, telling Sir Rad to plan for the future. He reveals Lady Journia has captured the slave trader they were colluding with, but the slave trader will continue hunting unless they speak up. The snake is shocked to learn this and asks if the man is Lud, Athel's older brother. The man sits alone in a dim room, pondering the report to Journia. The snake realizes these men were working with the slavers and doing something bad. Suddenly, the snake is shocked to discover the captive is a girl, who sits quietly with her head bowed, bruised and dirty. A young girl sits quietly, bruised and worn, her eyes closed as a hooded man contemplates her fate. He questions what she was planning to do, his tone heavy with concern and suspicion. The girl remains silent, her posture resigned. The man explains the girl is a tool for war, prompting shock at the possibility of another attack. He notes her wounds and reveals she is the daughter of a lord, kept hidden to protect them. The hooded figure admits to shielding her from harm, fearing the consequences if word spread that they enslaved a lord's daughter. The man confirms the lord had 2 daughters, one being the girl before them, the other daughter is enslaved in the neighboring kingdom of Sultana. The plan is to strike from the side of their own kingdom, Garat, to ignite a war. The hooded man reveals the enslaved daughter in Sultana is intended as a pawn in this conflict. Knights stand over captured slaves, asserting that a war would allow them to stockpile slaves. The man grins sinisterly, declaring that Elena and Sadella, the 2 daughters, will serve as detonators to start the war, their fates intertwined with the looming conflict. The hooded figure asks for details about Master Rad's plot, while the girl silently contemplates the question of whether she and Sadella are supposed to be together, hinting at a sisterly bond. The man confidently reveals he killed Lord Asbar. He explains that Sadella has been sent to the kingdom of Garat, and Elena secretly moved and enslaved Lord Asbar in Salatana, confirming the plan is proceeding as intended. The man smirks, declaring the next phase of the plot, accusing the hooded figure of making Lord Ashabal's daughter a slave. He reveals the secret that Arena is the Lord's daughter and the attacker of Az's territory. He plans to pose as a slave trader in Salatana to further the scheme. The hooded figure listens as the man laughs, calling it a perfect strategy. The figure quietly acknowledges understanding. The man accuses the figure of trying to pin all sins on Salatana. Recalling the killing of the Lord in hiding and the kidnapping and enslavement of his daughters, the figure confirms the inevitability of war and acknowledges the need to save Sadella first. The hooded figure accepts the responsibility and leaves the room, while gently patting the girl's head, who remains seated and silent. The girl's expression softens slightly, and a small creature nearby reacts with curiosity. The small creature notices the 2 have disappeared, receiving no response. A cloaked figure quietly leaves through a door. The girl sits alone in a dim room, unsure how to help. She finds a folded piece of paper on her lap, but cannot read the strange writing. The cloaked figure demands to know what to read, realizing they've been using the assassin all along. The small creature wonders why it's reading characters from another world. Noting Sora's voice has been silent except for mechanical announcements. The girl remains seated, determined to wake Sadella first despite doubts. A flashback shows a tense moment, hinting at past failures. The girl senses something and looks up as the small creature floats beside her. She notices a shining jewel, recognizing it as her mother's. The creature quietly moves to complete a task. Relieved, the girl's reaction matches expectations. The girl begins casting a powerful healing spell, summoning infinite water control to awaken Sadella, surrounded by glowing leaves and light. The girl marvels at the glowing water control flowers she has summoned, amazed by their beauty. The small snake-like creature beside her proudly explains it's a multiplication of great healing and unlimited water control flowers. The creature then adds a little more to the spell. The girl notices the snake and greets it quietly. Suddenly, she realizes her wounds have healed and she is glowing as well, surprised by the effect. She thanks the snake, wondering if it healed her. The creature quietly worries that an earth serpent might not like this, explaining its silence is due to concentration. The snake insists on leaving now, wanting to return to Zernia and the others. The girl hesitates, worried she'll get scolded if she leaves the house, but the snake urges her to go. The girl follows the snake, relieved and excited that she is okay. The snake floats ahead, leading her outside. She smiles brightly as they move away from the house into the night. Under the starry sky, the girl encounters a man named Mr. Oren, who questions why she is out at this hour. She explains the snake brought her here. He notices it is a girl alone in the middle of the night and asks if she is lost. The girl looks uncertain as he contemplates the situation, realizing the serpent led her to this place. The girl recognizes Mr. Oren at the door and exclaims in surprise at the real snake beside him. She expresses relief that they were able to rescue her. But then she suddenly feels overwhelmed and admits she used too many skills. Her voice trails off as she calls out weakly to the snake, worried about her condition. The next day, Mr. Oren sits behind a large desk with the snake beside him while a man reports that the slave trader has quieted down. Mr. Oren praises the man's hard work and asks about the interrogation's progress. The man explains that opinions on slave hunting are divided, and warns that they are all on edge and will be punished accordingly. The snake notes the girl hasn't slept in 4 days and is exhausted. Mr. Oren quietly promises to handle the situation. The snake reveals that Sir Rad is manipulating Elena and others to start a war. Pondering what to do next, the girl calls out happily to the snake. Running toward it with relief, she hugs the snake tightly, expressing joy that it's feeling better. The young man accompanying her watches with concern as she embraces the creature. Inside a room filled with books, the girl is scolded by the young man for being rough with the snake, who responds obediently. Mr. Oren questions the girl's identity, surprised she knows him. She introduces herself as Satella, and he is shocked to learn she is the daughter of Lord Azhabal. He wonders why Mr. Oren came to save her. Satella mentions she thinks her sister is meeting Mr. Serpent and that she recognized the shape of the jewel her mother had, deepening the mystery around her family. Connections. The snake realizes Elena must have asked Mr. Serpent to find Satella, understanding why Mr. Oren rescued her. Satella explains she was working with the slaves after being brought here, and a man in robes helped her. Mr. Oren expresses surprise that a slave trader would enter Lord Azhabal's domain hunting slaves. The snake wonders if the man in the robe might not be a bad person after all. A young man asks Sir Gilnea about their progress, and the seated man reports most slave traders linked to the slave hunters have been captured, saying things are going according to plan. The young man admits this is the first time he's done nothing and complains his body itches. The standing man reminds them they have 3 days left and urges quiet. The snake scolds Lady Gilnea for not sleeping in 4 days and not being able to talk about people, insisting she needs rest regardless of the situation, comparing it to a battlefield. Suddenly, a man shouts her name in alarm, causing the others to react with shock and confusion. The alarmed man abruptly changes plans, declaring the operation will happen tomorrow instead. The snake and others react with surprise and disbelief, questioning what was just said. The young man gasps in relief, confirming Lady Satella is safe. Satella stands quietly, clutching the snake tightly, startled by the sudden attention. The man urgently reports that the kidnapping of Lady Satella and Lady Arena was orchestrated by Lord Rad. Shocked, the seated man demands to know what was said. The conversation reveals Lord Rad is using Lady Arena, forced into slavery in Salitana, as leverage. Panic spreads over Lady Satella's disappearance, prompting plans to send an investigation team to Salitana the next day. The man admits fault, but the other insists the problem lies elsewhere. Scouts sent to the village of the Front Demon should return by tomorrow, emphasizing the urgency to act quickly. A crystal capable of sending images magically between communication and image crystals is introduced. The man explains these crystals will broadcast Asilsama's takeover of the throne to the entire kingdom. Although at least 25 of each crystal type are needed, only 20 of each are currently available, highlighting a critical shortage. The snake reflects on how seeing the judgment live will quickly spread understanding among the people. The seated man asks for help finding the crystals, while a subordinate reports Lord Balt is in charge of placing the crystal images. The group reacts with surprise at Lord Balt joining their side. A woman confirms Balt is frail but reliable, and the man acknowledges Balt's support will strengthen their cause. The rebels are revealed to be guarded by knights responsible for protecting the royal family, who keep everything hidden under wraps to avoid detection by the king. One man expresses relief at having such allies nearby, while another explains that the king and his son, who have acted as they pleased, are now out of favor, rendering the royal family's power nearly non-existent. A young girl calls out to her uncle, asking if he will help Arena. He replies that he will go, but not immediately, warning that both Arena and the country will be in danger if they are not careful. The girl insists they haven't done anything wrong, prompting a concerned reaction from a nearby snake. The next morning, armored guards stand watch in a village marketplace, drawing the attention of the townspeople. The scene shows the quiet vigilance of the guards as the day begins, with villagers observing their presence from a distance. A young man named Balt informs Athel that everything is ready. Balt explains he has secretly hidden several communication crystals to ensure some survive if others are broken. Athel thanks him sincerely for his thorough support, acknowledging the importance of the preparations for the upcoming meeting at the throne. The armored man clenches his fist with determination, declaring that they are fully prepared to overthrow the king and Rad from the throne. He instructs Brother Balt to stay hidden, warning that they don't know what he might do. Balt reacts with surprise but obeys the order. Balt expresses concern about being a burden due to his weakness, but insists he wants to join. Finding it fun, the armored man smiles warmly, advising him not to push himself too hard. They agree to proceed and prepare to head out soon. Outside, a group of people stands before the throne where the king sits, flanked by a nervous man. The armored man faces them with resolve, signaling the moment has come. The armored man raises his hand, causing the nervous man to panic and shout in confusion. The armored man activates the communication crystals, prompting a group of cloaked figures and suited men to kneel and respond in unison, signaling the start of their coordinated action. A crowd gathers outside a grand hall where a man sits on a throne. The armored man thanks his father and brother Rad for meeting him, but another man loudly demands why guards are needed for a private conversation. The king dismisses the protest, refusing to accept any nonsense and insisting on the presence of guards and vassals to hear the story. The armored man smiles confidently and declares he will have his father and brother Rad step down from the throne. The king reacts with shock and demands if this means rebellion. The armored man explains plainly that both his father and brother Rad are unfit to be royalty and that everyone shares this belief. He vows to take their place, accusing them of corrupting the country. The king angrily retorts, questioning how a worthless failure could dare such a claim. The confrontation escalates as the man in the ornate outfit lashes out, insulting the armored man's slow decision-making, weak swordsmanship, and lack of noble status. The armored man calmly counters, saying even if the accusations were true, he is more decent than the two who have stained their hands with crime. The king and the man beside him exchange uneasy glances as the tension thickens. The man in the ornate outfit panics, accusing the armored man of bluffing and lying to seize the throne. The armored man calmly reveals evidence that the king and his ally have been slave traders and engaged in slave hunting to increase mining workers, despite a recent decrease in slaves. The armored man's fierce declaration questions what the king thinks humans are, leaving the king sweating and shocked, unable to respond. The armored man accuses the king of killing Lord Azhabal and allowing slave traders to raid the demon village, instigating a pointless war with former demons using soldiers. The king is called out as the supreme commander responsible for the slave hunt, and the armored man demands he admit his guilt. The armored man, now calm and smiling, insists the king is misunderstanding. He explains he infiltrated the demon castle to prevent unnecessary war and reported everything to the lord. Suddenly, cheers erupt from outside, surprising the king and his court as soldiers return, shifting the atmosphere. Shock ripples through the court as one man exclaims in disbelief at the mention of a demon. Calmly, a figure with an eye patch explains that demons suffered no casualties in the village, revealing it was all part of Lord Assel's strategy. Outside, the triumphant cheers of soldiers presumed dead fill the air. The man reassures that Lord Assel and the demons are allied, and the rumors of demon attacks on the castle were lies. Suddenly, a young man commands the guards to capture two individuals, apologizing to his father for his brother Lad's disgrace and urging atonement for sins. The accused man, shocked, is called a traitor as magical fireballs are unleashed toward him. In a desperate moment, the man shields a younger figure, lamenting that he let his guard down at the last moment. He embraces the younger one protectively as the fireball magic surges around them. The man and the younger figure are drenched as a strange liquid pours over them. Bewildered, the man questions if it is water, while the other man, soaked and stunned, demands to know what this water is.